So welcome to today's show. Gerry and I are joined by an Irish football legend, an absolute legend, Gerry Armstrong. How you doing, Gerry? Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Colin. Thanks, Gerry. I'm looking forward to it. I've been doing a couple of shows earlier this morning. I did a show there earlier with Andy Gray and Richard Keys, and I have to say I'm still laughing. You know, the characters, they're two great characters. I've worked with them for over 25 years and played football, obviously, against Andy Gray. But the humour never changes. It's brilliant.
Fantastic, Gerry. Great to have you on.
Brilliant. And you're lucky now, you're elevated now. You've been on with Gerry and Colin. Those are two only me boys.
That's it. That's it. Well, listen, there's lots of different shows coming on now. And I did On the Ball last night, which is down in Dublin. And they wanted to know, obviously, about La Liga coming back and all the ins and outs of La Liga. And it starts off tonight, as you know, in Spain with the Clásico, which is a Clásico between the two Seville clubs, Sevilla against Real Betis. And I remember doing a game 2 years ago, 2018. And I think Real Betis scored in the first 2 minutes. And it was a wonderful game, probably one of the best games I've ever done on La Liga. And it was end-to-end stuff. And it finished Sevilla 3 and Real Betis 5. I have to say, pure entertainment, fun, great goals. That's the sort of games you want to commentate on. So hopefully tonight's going to be just as good.
Fantastic. I'm in the bar tonight from 4 o'clock, Gerry, so I'm hoping to watch that one. The big difference I find with Spanish football and English football, you know, in English football, when somebody hits a shot that goes over the bar, it's ooh, and they applaud because it was a bad thing. But we're in Spain, they actually boo when that happens. You know, you're expected to hit the target.
Well, there won't be any booing tonight, or there won't be any white handkerchiefs because there's no. That's going to be the eerie part of it for me because it's a strange scenario when you don't have any fans. I've actually commentated on a game in Italy about 15 years ago when Lazio had been banned from having their fans there, and there was maybe 100 odd people in the stadium who were all press and TV people, and I was commentating on the game for Eurosport. And I have to say, it is not good. The atmosphere, certainly it can have an effect on players. And I think it does take the home advantage away. So it makes the games a little bit more even, you know, when you don't have the 12th man in the stand supporting you.
Yeah, I think in the games in Germany, what they've done so far, there's only been something like 8 home wins throughout them all, which, you know, it's an amazing stat. And as you say, it just takes away when you don't have the fans there cheering you on. It does take away the home advantage.
Totally, and this year it looks like a straightforward fight between Barcelona, who are 2 points clear of Real Madrid, and then Real Madrid are 9 points clear of Sevilla. And well, I'm really pleased to say, you know, Real Sociedad are up in there this year, and they look like they have a chance to qualify in the Champions League. And then in 5th place, Getafe have had a brilliant season, and they have a chance to maybe finish in the top 4 as well. You know, anybody's got a chance. I'm reading the newspapers, Marca and stuff in Spain, and they're telling me that they expect Atletico Madrid to finish in the top 4, but they've started a rebuilding program there, and I think Simeone's got his work cut out when you change 3 out of the back 4, and you have to get them established, and they've no out-and-out goal scorer because obviously Griezmann's now gone. He scored most of their goals and created most of their goals for them, so yeah. I think there's a problem there. But it's going to be interesting. I want to see how this league finishes, and I have a funny feeling that Real Madrid can go on and win that league, even though they're 2 points behind Barcelona. I think Quique Setien could be in trouble, and he's only been appointed this season.
Yeah, you were saying just before we came on air there that Barcelona's only 18 fit players. The only good thing is they've got Suarez back. Yeah, so could play a big factor.
It could, and I think Real Madrid's got a stronger squad. For me, they've got a much better and stronger squad, and I think that could actually win it for them in the end over the final third of the season. So I'm watching out to see see if there's anybody. Well, we don't actually get La Liga live here in the UK. You have to subscribe to it through Premier Sports. Although, to be fair, Premier Sports are giving it out free for the rest of the month. But I wouldn't mind watching in some of the games and giving my comments and my opinions on how the games are going, you know, which would be a lot of fun. But
Gerry, we need to get you one of those wee black boxes up. Colin knows a guy can get you one. They're only about 40 quid and you get them all live. Yeah.
Listen,
allegedly, Gerry,
one for 30.
Right, obviously you've had a storied career with the likes of Real Mallorca and your goal against Spain in the World Cup. Tell me, who's your favourite Spanish team?
My favourite Spanish team has to be Real Mallorca. It has to be because that's who I played for. And I scored my first goal for Real Mallorca in La Liga back in 1983 against Barcelona. And Maradona, Schuster, Carrasco, Migueli, they all came into town, Alasanco. They were a fantastic team and they were red hot favourites. And we were under the couch for the first 15 minutes. And then we had an Argentinian player called Rolando Barrera, who was a great player, great left foot. And he went charging down the left-hand side and threw a cross into the far post. And I got myself in on a diving header at the far post and stuck in the back of the net. So we went 1-0 up and I thought, there we go. And that's when I then found out how good Maradona was, because he destroyed us. He just run rings around us. We couldn't do anything with him. And they beat us 4-1. And that was a real shock to the system. And I thought, wow. So he was a bit special. But, you've got teams like Barcelona and Real Madrid you're playing against. It was great for me to actually to get involved in it. But the day we went to play Valencia, I think it was in October, which is two or 3 months after I joined Real Mallorca. And I went back to the stadium where I'd scored the winning goal for Northern Ireland in the World Cup. And the players, I didn't speak too good. My Spanish wasn't that great then. And I remember when I was getting off the coach, everybody stood back and let me get off first. They were waiting for me and they had bananas, oranges, apples, eggs, you name it. They threw everything at me. He's gonna put that. They called me all these swear words because he was the one that knocked us out of the World Cup, and I got hammered. And the players were all laughing on the coach because they were in the papers and they knew there was a reception waiting for me. So got off the bus and headed into the vestuarios, which is the changing rooms. And I remember running in and the players were all laughing and we got changed and we went out and played the game. And it was a really hard game and we were losing 2-1 with 20 minutes to go. And I was getting, every time I got the ball, I got booed and I got hissed and all the rest of it and abuse. And I was getting really annoyed. And I picked the ball up in the halfway line and I went past 1, 2, 3, and then hit one from 20 yards, bottom right-hand corner, the same goal I scored in. So that was the 2-2 draw. And I remember turning, the crowds were all swearing at me and I was giving them the fingers and going, So I had a lot of banter with that. And then coming off, I had to get a police escort with the shields to get me off because they were throwing, it wasn't eggs and bananas they were throwing then and oranges. It was a wee bit harder stuff.
Just like home, Gerry. I
was going to say it was like a homecoming for me. I've seen that before. But it was a lot of fun. And that was the 2-2 draw. But Mallorca and Spanish football was good for me. I really enjoyed it. And it opened up an avenue for me that I didn't know was there. And in years to come, it was about 10, 12 years later, I'd sort of semi-retired. I was assistant manager. I was offered the assistant manager's job in Northern Ireland, but I'd taken a job at Worthing Football Club and I was player coach there. And I had the likes of Mark Falco, who I brought down from Tottenham, and Gary Brooks, who I brought in from Tottenham as well, and Tony Galvin, had these guys coming in to play for me and my team in the second division in the Diadora League, which was a bit of fun, but, it was still the same competitiveness. And then I got a couple of players from Portsmouth and a few lads from Brighton, and started to develop my own team. But George Best had phoned me up one day and he says, Gerry, he says, what are you doing this weekend? And I says, what do you mean? He says, Sunday. Are you free to play on a five-a-side for like 15, 20 minutes? It's for TV. Channel 4 are doing a documentary on small-sided games and how it's better for you to do five-a-side rather than 11-a-side because you get more touches on the ball. And he said it helps to improve your technique. And I said, yeah, I says, not a problem. I said, I'll do that. And on the Saturday, the day before, he phoned me up and he says, you still okay for tomorrow? I says, yes. I said, I'm okay. And I said, who else is going, by the way? And he says, oh, I need to tell you. He says, something first. And I said, what? He says, I can't make it now. And I said, you can't get there, George? And he went, no. I said, well, who else is going to be there? And he went, well, there's nobody else. He said, I was going to say, can you get 4 others? Because I can't make it and there's nobody else going. And I said, are you having a laugh? And he said, they're going to put up a wee meal and all for food and drink afterwards. He said, you can bring your families down and have a bit of crack in London. And I said, okay. So I got Kenny Sampson and a few of the boys together and we turned up and we played for 15, 20 minutes, did a couple of interviews. And the guy said afterwards, "Thanks very much, lads. That was great." And he said, "Gerry," he said, "George told me you played football in Spain and you speak a bit of Spanish." And I said, "That's right." And he said, "Well, I'm starting to work next week at Sky." He said, "They've taken on Spanish football for a year. Would you be interested in coming in as a guest next Saturday night?" And I said, "Yeah, okay." And that's how I ended up becoming involved in Sky and Spanish football for 22 years through George, who put me in the scene. So that's how things happen.
Fantastic.
Unbelievable.
Fantastic, Gerry.
Even the fact you're getting phone calls from George Best there, Gerry, you're showing off.
No.
Well, I made my debut with George, you see, back in 1977. And I remember I'd been in the squad about 6 months earlier, and I was coming through at that time at Tottenham. I'd played in the first team, and they brought me into the squad. And we had a World Cup qualifier against Holland in Rotterdam. And basically, it was Cruyff, it was Neeskens, it was Van Hanegem, it was the Van de Kerkhoffs. I mean, Johnny Rep, it was just unbelievable. The team was unbelievable. And George had come back into the squad, and Danny Blanchard had him in the squad, and we trained at Coventry. And it's like George was one of those players that he got the ball and he could just do anything with either foot. And his body is, I'd never seen anybody could move. He was like a ballerina. He could move 45 degrees that way, and you think he's going to fall over. And as you're starting to move, defenders are starting to move with him, he would just go straight back again. And they're going that way, and he's going the other way. And his movement was so quick, and his control and his touch. And he used to wait till he got your legs slightly open, and he would slip it through your legs and go around the other side. and he would actually laugh as he went past you. He'd have a wee giggle, you know, as he went past you. This is in training. So all the lads used to close their legs because they knew he was going to. So what he did was he played a 1-2 off your shins. He played 1-2 off your shins, and he still passed you. So he'd do that with his right foot or his left foot. And I'm watching him for the first time in training, and I'm going, wow. I thought, what a player, you know, and I'd never seen anybody. And now, he wasn't even at his peak then. If you could have seen him in the 60s, for me, 3 or 4 years, he was the best player in the world. And then he went over to the States when he was 23, 24. You know, he left far too early. We've never seen him go to his peak. And he could actually even have made it into the 1982 World Cup squad. I thought he was going to make it. And unfortunately, Billy Bingham didn't choose him because I think he thought it was too big of a risk. You know, but it was fantastic watching him to do that. And then when we went to play the Dutch on the night, and I wasn't playing, but I'm sitting watching, and he's had Neeskens, who they said Neeskens is going to do a man-for-man job on George Best. And the first couple of minutes, Neeskens didn't have a little kick at him, which is the worst thing he can do. He's had Chopper Harris kicking him for years and everybody else. So when Neeskens has a kick at him, George comes to life. And he turned, and he's got the ball, and Neeskens comes in to kick him, and George flicks it with the outside of his foot through his legs and goes round the other side, and Neeskens is gone. And the Dutch crowd are all fanatics on football, so they appreciated that and they applauded. So then a couple of seconds later, George gets the ball again, and then with the other foot, left foot, he flicks it through Neeskens' legs again. Neeskens decided to stand a yard off, and he thought, no, I'm not going to get this. And once you stand off George, he'd just destroy you. And he run the show. He was brilliant. And I remember I was talking to Derek Spence, because Derek Spence scored his first goal that night. We went 1-0 up, and then we were 2-1 down, and Derek came on with 15 minutes to go, and he gets on the end of one on the edge of the 6 yards box, and he scored his first goal for Northern Ireland, and that gave us the 2-2 draw. And everybody, they didn't want to interview Neeskens, they didn't want to interview Cruyff, they wanted to interview George Best because of what he had done and what he was still doing. He had that charisma. He was fantastic. So I've great stories with George, and we're best mates. And I took him to America with me for a month when we were coaching out in the States, up in Massachusetts and Cape Cod. And he was one of my coaches. I had David McCreary, who went out with me as well, and Danny McGrain, another one of my coaches, Joe Craig from Celtic, another. We had a lot of good lads, and it was great fun. But George's banter, he was just charismatic, you know.
Gerry, you didn't start playing football till you were about 17, 18, isn't that right? You were
I played Gaelic football and hurling until I was 17, and around 16 and a half, 17. And then I dabbled a wee bit because I played in the street with the lads. All the boys used to play in the street. You used a lamppost or a can or whatever it was as a goal. And you play the 1-2s off the wall passes and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But I never played in any of the teams. And then Jordy McCabe tried to get me into St. Paul Swifts team. And I played most of the season there because I was playing a lot of Gaelic football. And I think I finished top goal scorer, 30-odd goals that year for St. Paul Swifts in the Down in Connor. But I didn't really want to play soccer as such. It was just a bit of fun. It was sport for me. But then I got suspended. I was a big Gaelic player, and I was playing at 16, 17. I was playing senior football for St John's and also for Antrim. And I was playing in a minor final, and I was due to play for Antrim senior team straight afterwards. I'd play 2 games, one after the other. You know, it didn't bother me. I'd play 1 or 2 o'clock, and then at 3:15, I'd play the second game. And I was a captain of the St John's team, and it was against Cargan. Or it was up in Cargan, but it was a very physical, dirty game. And the Gaelic then, there was a lot of things went on that we were allowed to do. So I ended up smacking this guy and I busted his jaw in a couple of places, so I got suspended for a month. And I couldn't play anything. So I don't know if do you remember Vincent O'Riordan, who played for...
Yeah,
good footballer, Finty, and Joe was his brother, and Roderick. They all good footballers. So he had said to me, "Come on, we'll go down to Cromwell Albion and see if we can get a game." So I went down to the Black Bull, and I'd never met Sammy Watson. It was the first time. I was like watching Arthur Daly before.
Cigar.
He was. So he was there, and Bobby McCauley, people like that. There was a lot of good players who were there, and I knew a few of them, but then never had played football with them. So he said, right, we're going to pick the team. So Sammy picked the 12 that was going. And he said, right, he says, Bobby, have you got your car with you? Yeah, you're paying, you're going. So it was one of those. So he's picked all the lads. And I'm standing there, and I looked at Vinty, and I went, is that it, Vinty? We're not going to get a game here? And he went, we're not getting a game yet. And I thought, no, and I was busting to play. So we're walking back of the City Hall, and these 2 lads from Old Park Celtic, who were bottom of the league, the same league, they're coming along, and they're going, all right, Vinty, how's it going? And he went, good. He said, what he's up to, he says, we're looking for a game. He says, we've only got 9 players. We're playing the top team in the league, because Cromwell Albion were second in the league. This team was above them. And he said, we're playing the top team in the league. We've got a couple of lads have cried off. And I said, well, we'll play. And he says, where do you play? I said, up front, stick me anywhere up front. So I went and played up front, and Vinty was a left back. He played left back, and we beat the league leaders that day 4-1. I scored all 4 goals.
Good lad.
As it goes. So I go home, and I'm starving. My mum's cooking me the dinner. About 7:30, 7:45, there's a knock on the door, and my father opens the door, and it's Sammy Watson looking to speak to me. And he says, big man, I didn't know who you were. He says, you're playing for me. I said, no problem, Sammy. So I played 3 games for Cromwell Albion, and in the 3rd game, Billy Neal and Bertie Neal from Bangor Football Club were watching the game, and they come over to speak to me afterwards and said, any chance you'd come down and train with us like Tuesday and Thursday? And I said, yeah, no problem. I used to do the Gaelic like on a Monday and a Wednesday, so the Tuesday and Thursday suited. And I played football on a Saturday for St John's, and I could play Gaelic on the Sunday as well. And I played quite a bit of hurling until I was around that age. But at 17, I was captain of the Antrim Vocational Schools, and I was also in the Antrim Vocational Schools hurling team, which is the under 18, under 17, under 18. And we went through to the All-Ireland final at Croke Park, and we beat Tipperary in the All-Ireland final. So I won an All-Ireland hurling medal when I was 17 at Croke. And then the following week, I went back as the captain of the Antrim Vocational Schools football team, and we got beat in the final by a point by Mayo. So I played 2 All-Ireland finals, one of football at Croke and one at hurling at Croke, which is not a bad wee thing to do when you're a kid.
Unbelievable, Jerry.
And then I thought, I can't play soccer, I can't play hurling, and I can't play Gaelic. I can't play all 3 of them. So I packed in the hurling, because the 2 football ones supported each other. And that's what I did. So my training schedule changed slightly, and I went in and started training at Bangor, and I did the 2 days. And then the coach then was a guy called Ralph McGugan, lovely man, and he was the reserve team coach. And he said, look, he said, son, he said, we're going to put you on the bench for the reserves this weekend down at the civil service grounds. And I said, right, okay. He says, now we're not going to pick you because these lads, it's a semi-final of the Stevenson's Cup. And he said, they've worked hard to get there. He says, but if we get a chance, I'll stick you on. So playing in the civil service ground, it's 1-1, 15 minutes to go. And Ralph says, right, big man, we need to go. Get yourself warmed up. You're coming on. So I come on, and I wasn't even playing centre forward. I was coming on the right-hand side. And he said to me, on you go. And I remember picking the ball up, and I was very aggressive and very strong and very quick. And I go past one person, past another, and the centre half was a big gorilla, and he tried to take me out. And he did catch me, but I kept going. And I had the shot, and the keeper saved it. And as the ball comes out, Gary Reid, who's our centre forward, He was a wee whippet, wee skinny lad, and he just come on the end of it and stuck in the back of the net. So we go 2-1 up, turned around, and they're all celebrating. And I'm turning around, and the big gorilla is coming towards me, and he's going, "I'm going to break your legs, you do that again." And I said, "What'd you say?" So they're saying, forget about it. So they pulled me to the one side and get back to the halfway line, and it kicks off. 2 or 3 minutes later, I get the ball again, go past 1-2. The big lad tries to take me out, exactly the same, go past him, smack it straight into the top corner of the net, 3-1, turn around. He's coming towards me. I hit him, right hook, right on the button. Sent off. I was 8 minutes on the park on my debut for Bangor. I certainly made an impact, though, I have to say. Bit of fun.
You definitely did.
And then,
Gerry, see, just talking about Sammy, great story about Sammy Watson. I can't remember, he was suspended for, I think it was about 2 months, and he was taking the team this time. And at half time, you just seen this bit of smoke coming out of a tree, and all the boys come off, and they're all sitting down, but they're all looking up into the tree like that. Isn't he hiding? And he's getting the team talk, and all the boys are looking up into the tree. You just see the leaf coming out in the smoke.
was it smoking big cigars?
He's some boy. Yeah.
Kevin played for Cromwell Albion as well, and he's great stories. He played for quite a while there with Joe Muckian and a lot of the boys. And good club, great amateur team, Cromwell Albion. And the Black Bull was their meeting place. It was synonymous where they used to meet and pick the team and then go off to wherever they were supposed to play. But there was a great story I had from my brother. Do you remember Jackie McManus?
Yes, yeah. Rubber leg.
Now, Jackie was at Bangor with me briefly for about 6 months, and he's a real character, a school teacher, but really good footballer, good sportsman. And my brother told me about a Buncrana tournament he went to 3 or 4 years after I think I had gone off to Tottenham. And he said we went to play in Buncrana, and I think they got beaten in the semi-final. And on the way back, they stopped at this. It was like a pub cum dining place. And as they were pulling up, there was all these bags of spuds out the back. And Jackie said, "Oh, spuds," straight into the boot of the car. He said, that'll keep me going for the rest of the month. So I did a wee video for Jackie through Kieran McGuigan, who's a big friend of ours. And I said to Kieran, he said, "It's Jackie's birthday, come up, can you do a wee message?" And I said, "Listen, I'll do a video." And I sent the video and I said, "Hi, Jackie." I said, "It's Gerry Armstrong here. I just want to say I've played with the best. I played against Maradona. I played against Platini. I said I played with Glenn Hall, John Barnes. I said, and I played with some fantastics, George Best included." I said, "But best player in the Irish League has to be Jackie McManus." By the way, he said, "There's a woman up in Buncrana saying, 'Where's my spuds?'" I did that video last week for Jackie, which should go down very well.
Really?
But great stories.
What age is Jackie now?
I think he's 70, about the 70 mark. He must be around 70. He was older than me, and I'm 66, so I would guess he's around the 70 mark.
He was a great player for Coleraine, and as I played football at Start of the Sea with his son John, another good lad too.
Start of the Sea?
Yeah.
That's who I played the final at Celtic Park for Paul Swifts. Jordy McCabe was the manager, and we beat Start of the Sea. I scored 2 or 3 goals that day, and this guy came up afterwards and said to me, "Would you come down and take a trial for Glentoran?" I says, "I don't even play soccer, mate." I said, so I did actually go to one of the training sessions, and it was Smiler Moore.
Don't know.
Smiler Moore, he's quite famous down in I think he was a scout for Crusaders, and he was a scout for Glentoran at different times. Smiler Moore, his name was, and he was like an Arthur Brady, he was that type of a character. But he was the one that got me to go to the Glens, and I went down and train them. I wanted to train all the time, so I went down and trained. I didn't fancy it, didn't like it, and ended up never went back. But I signed for Bangor, obviously, and had a career there for 3 years. And then I thought the day I was signing, I was playing for Antrim at Casement Park, and I got a phone call from Jimmy Apperson, the vice president of Bangor, and he said to me, "Gerry, meet me 12 o'clock." He said, "Back in the City Hall." And I said, "What?" And he said, "You're signing today." And I'd done all my conversations I had for the previous 2 weeks were with Arsenal, but I had been on a trial a month before that at Tottenham for a few days, and myself and wee Johnny Jamison. And I remember I thought I'd done really well. I scored against the first team and played a couple of reserve games and thought I did pretty well, but never heard nothing, so I thought nothing's going to come out of it. But Arsenal were really keen, and they said they wanted to sign me and were negotiating with Arsenal. So I turned up at the back of the City Hall, and we went to the Audrey Inn and thought I was going to sign for Arsenal. But when I got there, it was Terry Neal was there, and he was the manager of Spurs. He said, "You're not signing for Arsenal." He said, "You're signing for us." So the negotiations took part, and I remember Bertie was helping me out with the negotiations, and I was working in the housing executive at the time as a I don't know, clerical officer type thing in the commercial property section. And I was on about £23 a week, which was okay. Plus, if you add the £6 you get for playing for Bangor and a £3 bonus if you win, like, you know, it was one of those. And he said, okay, we're going to sign you for a 1 year with a 1 year contract at Tottenham. He said, and we're going to put you on £60 a week. And I thought, £60 a week, that's 3 times what I'm earning here. I thought, that's not bad. And then Bertie says, well, he's worth more than £60 a week. Give him £70 a week. And Terry said, no, you have 6. And so the two of them started arguing. I thought, this is good. So he said, no, I'll give you 65. So we agreed on £65 a week. That was my first salary when I went to Tottenham. And I had a 1 year contract with a 1 year option. But it was funny when I was so enthusiastic. I just wanted to know, could I actually play in that league? And could actually become a professional footballer and make it to the top. And I was a big Leeds fan as a kid, and I never made my debut for about a year after that. I was on the bench at Everton when we won 2-0, and I didn't have to come on. I was desperate to get on at Goodison Park, so I had to wait till the start of the following season, and I made my debut against Ipswich. And but I didn't score my first goal until a couple of weeks later, and that was away to Leeds at Ellen Road. I scored my first goal against Leeds, but we got beaten 2-1. And the following year, I remember going back and we beat them 2-1 and I scored again. So I had lots of good memories like that, but it was just how you evolve and develop. But I remember after a month, I was starting to get worried because I was strong and I was quick and I was enthusiastic and I had a good attitude. But I was watching this kid in the gym at 16 and a half. And I was training in the gym every afternoon because I was a late developer. I only started playing soccer at 17. So these guys had been playing from they were kids and their touch was better than mine and I had to improve my touch. And my left foot was just for standing on them. I couldn't do anything else. It was one of those. So I was big and strong and I hadn't really worked it out. I had to play to my strengths. So Peter Shreves was a coach one day in the gymnasium and he said, okay, get a ball each. So it was a ball each. It was all skills and running and dribbling. And then he said, okay, I want you to chip the ball into the circle on the wall in front of you. And when it comes back, it won't hit the ground. It's a chest control. And then you volley the ball into either that goal if you're right footed. And if you're left footed, you can kick it into the goal at the other end. So he said, Glenn, in the 16 and a half, comes over. Glenn Hoddley said, Glenn, can you chip the ball into the circle? It doesn't hit the ground, chest control, and then volley it into the goal. He said, okay. And Glenn says, okay, Pete. He says, which foot do you want me to use? My right foot or my left foot? And I went, he's taking the piss. So Pete says to him, whatever one you want. He says, well, I'll chip it with my right foot and I'll shoot with my left. I went, he is taking the piss now. He runs up and he kicks it with his right foot, hits the centre of the circle, and the circle was 1 metre wide. Hits the centre of the circle and comes back. And Glenn had this quality about him. He just looked like it was all skill and art. Graceful. It was more like he just had a greatness about him even then. And he controlled it on his chest and then he hit on the volley with his left foot and in the top corner. I'm going, oh, God almighty. And he said, okay, that's the skill. Follow that. I went, how do you follow that? You can't follow that. It was unbelievable. So I thought, I'm struggling here because I thought there's no way I'm going to be that good in a year. But a couple of months later, I realized after playing several games that 1, I was stronger than they were. 2, I was braver than they were. And 3, my attitude and my determination and my pace were big assets. So I had to work those assets into my game. And I quickly learned that those were going to be very important for me and broke through into the first team. And then I got a new contract and they put me straight on £100 a week. And I thought, I'm a millionaire now. I'm on £100 a week. It was crazy. But it was great fun developing at Tottenham. And I did 5 years at Spurs before I moved to Watford, and your career just it evolves from that.
Well, and what age were you at that stage when you went to Watford, Gerry?
25. I was 25. I just turned 25 in the May before, and Graham Taylor apparently had been chasing me for over a year, and I didn't know that. But see, at Spurs, because there was only 11 players on the park and one sub on the bench, I had been brought in a couple of years earlier. We had a problem, and we had an injury problem on tour. And I think it was Willie Young got injured, our centre half. And we had sold our other centre half called Keith Osgood. And Keith Birkinshaw was the new manager, and he said to me, Gerry, he says, I'm going to ask you to play centre half on the tour. And I says, right, okay. And I thought, well, I don't mind, I just want to play. So I was getting in the team. So I played centre half, and Steve Perryman played alongside me, and Steve was like class. But Steve's like 5'8", 5'9". And I could jump like a stag, and I was the quickest player at the club, and I'd go through brick walls. So he knew I would attack the ball, and Steve used to just sweep around the back and pick up the bits and pieces. So it was one of those where we did really well, and we played in the final. We played Leicester, and Leicester were a big club, and Frank Worthington was the centre forward then, and Frank was class, but he wasn't quick enough for me, and he wasn't strong enough for me, and I gave him a bad time. I clattered him a few times, and he didn't fancy it, so we beat them anyway. And afterwards, Keith said, I'm not being funny. He said, you're the best centre half we have at the club. He says, and I went, I don't mind playing centre half at a push. I said, but I want to play up front. That's where the fun is. I want to enjoy myself. And he went, no, I'm going to make you centre half. So Northern Ireland had a game. It was we played Stoke first, because we played Stoke, and Stoke were a good club, and I was in for John Duncan. John Duncan was the number one centre forward, but John had been injured, and I'd gone in to replace him, and we played them, and it was a tough game. And him and I mean, Dennis Smith was the centre half, and he kicked lumps out of me, and I kicked lumps out of him. I'm not being funny. He was one of the hardest centre halves I played against. And I like Dennis because he wasn't like sort of shy boy. He told me, he said, I'm going to break your legs the next ball comes in. And he did. He hammered me. But then straight after that, I'd cut him in two. And we just hammered each other for the whole game. And we beat them 3-1, and I scored a couple of goals. So on the Sunday, I flew out to play for to meet the Northern Ireland squad. And I'd made my debut against West Germany about 2-3 months earlier. I played up front with George Best, which was something special, I have to say, against the world champions. And George was great for an hour, but when he ran out of steam, so did we. And we got hammered. And that was Malcolm Brodie put the piece in the paper saying, Avita saying Pat, because he said Pat was over, he was done. Pat went on to play for another 12 years after that, and played won FA Cups and UEFA Cups and everything, So it was one of those. But I made my debut for Northern Ireland and against West Germany, and played up front with George, which is something everybody would dream about. And then it was a few months later, I've come over, and George is not in the squad. He's been left out. And we had, I can't even remember who was up front. It might have been Trevor Anderson, it might have been, but I'm playing up front, and we're playing Belgium at Windsor Park. So it's my first game at Windsor Park and my debut. And I remember Dee McCreary put his head in, and I got on the end of the knockdown, and I took it on about 20 yards out, edge of the box, and I smashed it straight in the top corner. And the keeper, he could be trying all day, he was never going to get anywhere near it. It was a great goal. So got my first goal in front of the Kop, and the place was 40,000 capacity, and I thought happy days. And then we scored again, and then I went through in the second half, and I took it past the last defender, and the keeper came out, and I dribbled around him on my left foot, and I smashed one of them with my left foot. I've been working on it at Tottenham for a few years, so I was getting quite comfortable on it then, So I've scored my second goal. So I scored 2 goals, and I've gone back on the Thursday to Tottenham, and turned up for training on the Friday morning, and the boys are going, hey, wow, 2 goals in the World Cup qualifier for your debut for Northern Ireland. I said, yeah. They said, fantastic. And Keith says to me, Keith Birkinshaw said, 2 goals last Saturday and two on Wednesday night. He said, wow. He said, what a week you're having. And I thought, well, he's got a problem now, because John Duncan's fit, and I'm waiting to see what's going to happen here, because he's going to have to either pick me in front of John Duncan or stick me on the bench. So I was waiting to see what happens. So the team sheet comes up on the door after you finish training, and I looked at the team sheet, and I'm not in the 12. I'm not even on the bench. And I'm going, what's going on here? So
he sold you.
I wish he had it. But I'm sitting there, and I didn't know what to do. And then I looked on the other door, and that's where the reserve team sheet is. And it's away to Bristol City. And number 5, Gerry Armstrong. I'm down as a centre half at Bristol City. True story. So I thought, I'm not having it. So straight over to the manager's office, banging on the door, and had a row with him. about, and he says, look, you're the best centre-half we have. I wanted to play centre-half. I says, I don't want to play centre-half. I said, I've just scored 2 goals in the World Cup for my country, and I scored 2 goals for you last week at Stoke, and you want to play me at centre-half? So we had a bit of an argument over it, and it didn't end amicably, to be honest. And I had asked for a transfer, and that was 1977-78. So I ended up staying another 2 years at Tottenham after that. So it shows you, because he didn't want me to go. I was a utility player. And then as the games were being played and Tottenham was having games, there was a problem at right back. And yours truly, I went and played right back. So he put me in everywhere, because I was probably the best athlete at the club. And I could run, I could jump, I could kick a ball, I could kick people, I could do, And he knew he could put me anywhere. So a lot of the times I was down as on the bench, or I was playing in a position that he hadn't got anybody else could fill. So I played midfield and I played centre-half. I played a lot of games as centre-half. One of the games I didn't do myself any favours in was West Bromwich Albion away. And that's when they had the 3 degrees and they were class, Cunningham on the right wing, Cyril Regis down the middle, who was strong and quick, class player. And of course, the full-back Viv. And they had some great players. And anyway, I marked Cyril Regis that day at the Albion, and we beat them 1-0. And I have to tell you, he never got a touch. He never got near it. I matched him all the way, and that was it. I didn't do myself any favours because I played so well. I got man of the match, and he said, "That's your position," and I just didn't want to play there. So I kept on the transfer list, and eventually, after a couple of years, he sort of said, "Look, Watford's come in for you. They paid a really good offer." And it was a record fee then. It was 250,000, which was a record sale for Tottenham to sell me. It cost them 30 grand, and they sold me for 250,000 like 5 years after I joined them. And I went to Watford, and they were bottom 3 at the time in the Championship, but had a couple of games in hand. But Graham Taylor, when you speak to him, he just convinces you that you're going to go places with him, and we did. So I loved being at Watford, and I thought I was fit when I was at Tottenham. As an athletics club at Watford, nobody put on weight and everybody was fit. I mean, great regime, great managerial skills. And of course, I got an email after it signed from, not an email, it was a telegram from Elton John saying, "So pleased you've joined the club. Can't wait to meet you. I'm on tour at the minute. I'll see you at Christmas," it was the October. So then, but then when we did our stuff, and I was at the club for 2 years, and in the 82 was the year we got promoted, and we went up. And after the promotion, I had the World Cup, which we had qualified for, and I'd scored the goal against Israel that qualified us for it. That was a left foot volley, big header from Billy Hamilton, and I hit it on the volley, left foot. We beat Israel 1-0 to qualify for the World Cup finals. But the big game a couple of months before that was Portugal. They beat us 1-0 in Portugal, and we had to beat them in Windsor Park, and there wasn't many chances in the game. And Terry Cochran done brilliant. He chased a lost cause down the right and stopped it on the line, and then checked past the line, came back and crossed it with his left foot straight to the far post, and I came in and headed it into the top corner, and that was the only goal. So we beat Portugal, and that meant that if we beat Israel in our last game, we qualified. So that's what happened. So it was a great year for me, for promotion for Watford, getting into top flight football. And Elton was phoning me from Norway or wherever he was, Scandinavia, wanted to speak to everybody on the phone. And then in the World Cup, when I was in the World Cup, I had Graham Taylor phoning me every other day saying, "Keep running at them. They can't handle you. They don't know what to do. You're scaring the life out of them." And he said, "You're doing us proud," because Watford had just got into the top flight football. And then you've got the chairman coming on and making comments. And then I won the Golden Boot, which is actually here. It's just sitting here.
You see it in the background there? Yeah.
The Golden Boot, I won that one for the 1982 as the best British player. I scored 3 goals. And I had to get it awarded at the Café Royal in London. And I brought Elton John as my guest. He was my guest. So to collect the boot. Because I was a Watford player then, and that was great. Kevin Keegan actually won. He won the other Golden Boot, which is the top league score that year. And I think he was at Southampton. So I don't know, there's too many years that the top goal scorer in the top flight in football in England was a Southampton player. So Kevin Keegan, and I have a photograph of me and Kevin Keegan. He's got his boot and I've got my boot. I think it's in that corner there somewhere.
It is.
It is just in that top corner there. Hang on.
Robert.
There you go. Hang on. Guitar nearly went for a burden. There you go. That's the one there.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, so that was that one. Me and Kevin with our golden boots from Adidas, and had a great day. But it was so much fun. So much fun. And, you know, just all of that with Elton John. You know, the last year I was there, it was after the 82 World Cup, and I scored the first goal for Watford in top flight football against Everton. So there's a big mural of me inside the club as you come into the reception, there's a wall, and it's just the goal, you know, the first goal in top flight football. So things like that are great that can happen in your career. But 83, I realised we had finished runners-up to Liverpool. And I said, this is as good as it gets. We beat Liverpool last game of the season. They'd already won the league. Man United drew, so we finished runners-up. So I got a runners-up medal. And I had an opportunity to go to Spain to play for Real Mallorca, and I took it. It was a new career move, and I thought it was a good decision, so I took it.
How did that come about, Jerry?
They've been chasing me. A couple of clubs have been chasing me. There was the German clubs that come in, and there was Seville and Zaragoza had been interested. But Real Mallorca really pursued it and sent this agent over to meet me in London. And I went with an interpreter, a girl who spoke Spanish and English, and she interpreted everything to me. And I didn't have an agent. I didn't have an agent ever. And basically sat down and basically said, you know, what's the story? And he said, Real Mallorca got promoted, and we want you to come and play for us, and the president wants you. He said he looked at Hans Krankel and he looked at all these other players, but he wants you. He said he wants a British style centre forward. He said you were great in the World Cup and want you to play. And I said, okay. I said, so what sort of money are we talking about, you know? And he said, well, the fee has already been agreed with Watford. Now, Watford paid 250,000 for me 3 years earlier, and they were selling me for the same fee to Real Mallorca, you know. And I thought, right, okay. And I said, so I was on 25 grand a year at Watford, which is £500 a week roughly. And I said, what sort of money we're talking about? And he said, well, we pay you 50,000 a year, which was double my wage. And I thought, well, that's not bad. So I was quite happy with that. And I said, is there a signing on fee? So I started negotiations through this interpreter. And every time I talked, and I said, well, how big is the stadium? And they said, the stadium's 40,000, it holds. I said, right, okay. And what's your average crowd? And he went, 40,000. Every time we play at home, it's full. You know, and I thought, Mallorca's not a bad island, you know, sunshine, you know, beaches. I thought, no, it could be a good idea. So I had to go and think about it. So I went and discussed it and thought about it, and came back a couple of days later and said, look, I want to go over and meet the president and meet the people over at the club. And Eddie, what was his name? Eddie Bromley, I think it was. He was the secretary of Watford, and he flew with me. And I remember flying over, and after a couple of days there, I thought, I'm going to do this because the money was good and the opportunity was good, and it was going to give me another 2 or 3 years at the top, and I was going to find out a different league. And I remember it was we were in the Victoria Sol Hotel in the Paseo Maritimo in Mallorca, and there was a guy there who was involved in football, and he was staying at the hotel. And he was a big friend of Eddie Plumley. That's who it was, Eddie Plumley. And Eddie said, oh, look who it is. And I said, who is it? And I went, oh, I know him. And he said, that's Doug Ellis. He said, he's the chairman of Aston Villa. So he come over, and Doug was chatting to me, and he said, well, Jerry's going to sign for Real Mallorca. And he says, really? And he said, yeah. So we did the contract there and then, and we signed it there. And I think he was one of the witnesses. He was actually there, Eddie Plumley. It's just the way it worked out, you know. And so I signed for them then, and had to fly back. But when I flew back with Eddie, it happened to be the Sunday. I flew back on the Saturday, and I didn't get seeing the lads. And the next day, the Sunday, was the Sunday before the season kicked off. And that was always the party at Elton John's house. So he always had a party the Sunday before the season kicked off. And everybody from the club, including the kit man, including the people who worked in the office, and including the guy who cut the grass and cleaned the terraces, their families were all invited. So we had a convoy from Vicarage Road to Windsor, where Elton lived, in a huge big estate. And I'd been to two before that, two different parties there before. And we turned up, and that was my farewell gig, and I was coming in. And Elton had stables, but he didn't have horses in them. He had cars in them. And Luther Blissett was a fanatical car racing, and there was a Ferrari, and Luther used to say, come on, big man, me and you, we get in a Ferrari, and we'd take it right into it. Let Luther drive. I wish I had drove. He was worse than me. He was crazier. You know, and then you'd go down and you'd have a party and he'd have a band playing, and he would have the big swimming pool. You could go around the house and look at his record collection. He had the biggest private record collection in Europe at the time, and he was just a fantastic guy, great bloke to be with. And you know, we had a trip. I have to tell you, the trip to China was after the British Championships, and I talked to Graham Souness about this because it was one of those where 1983, May was always the British Championships, and Watford had arranged to go to China on tour for the first time. And there were 3 games organised in Shanghai and Peking. And we were going to miss the 4 internationals with Luther Blissett, John Barnes for England, Kenny Jackett for Wales, and myself for Northern Ireland. We were going to miss the opening game. We were going to arrive the day after the opening game had been played, but we were going to fly out afterwards. So we played the British Championships, came back, met at Heathrow Airport, and we're getting on a British Airways flight to go to Hong Kong for the next part of our journey into China. And getting on the flight, and all of a sudden I see Graham Souness and all my mates. I said, Graham Souness, what are you doing? He says, going to Hong Kong. I said, what for? He says, we've got a game out there. I said, well, I'm going to Hong Kong. So it turned out we're on the same flight. Kenny Dalglish, Mark Lawrenson, you know, Bush Grobbelaar, the whole lot, the whole crew, and they're all stuck in the middle. So we're wearing Watford shirt and tie for this 18-hour flight. Watford shirt, tie suits, me, Luther, the boys are all, and they're all casual, and they're in the plane and they're knocking back the drinks and having a lot of fun. And I remember a story where there was a £5 note and it was thrown in the aisle of the plane, and it was just sitting there, and I all you could see was a fiver, and all the players were all leaving the aisle clear, and they're all sort of looking out the window like that as if they're not interested. And the people are boarding the flight, and they're sitting there saying, "Oh, there's a fiver there." So bend down, and just as their fingers get close to it, somebody hits the wee button, and it slips up under their hand. And it was hilarious to see it, and I was looking, and I thought, it was Graham Souness. It was good. He was so funny. He was a real character. And Kenny Dalglish was killing himself laughing, and Alan Kennedy, all the boys. It was there was real camaraderie about them, and it reminded me a lot of the Northern Ireland squad, you know, what we did. But that was my last trip, and Elton was with us on the trip. And when we got into China, Elton, we weren't allowed to have a drink, but the last day of the trip, we won all 3 games, and Graham Taylor said, "Listen, you've done me proud. Well done. Go and enjoy yourselves. You can have a drink, no problem." So we had our meal, and then Elton pulled the curtain back, and there was a piano, and he's up, and he says, "Right, you name it, I'll play it and sing it." So we've gone Rocket Man, you know, any song you wanted, he played it, and he did personal stuff like that. He was just unbelievable.
Brilliant. A long way from Corrigan Park, Gerry.
Love Corrigan Park. My grandfather was one of the founders of St. John's, along with the McCallions and the Halls and everybody else, and the Daras. There were so many people involved at St. John's then. I loved that. That's where I played most of my football and grew up, you know, and very, very good memories. But that was a good ground for me for getting me built up and strong, you know, and I'm still running now. I'm doing jogging with Gerry, and I do that like 3 or 4 times a week. And with my wee wife.
You like a wee tune as well too. You can chant a wee song.
I do a wee bit of singing. I always sang with the team. You see, Gerry, when we were, you know, the parties afterwards, we used to close up the bar, and then after the general public left, the bar would reopen again in the hotel. And Peggy was the bar manager, and I would start to sing songs. Billy Bingo would say, "Right, Gerry, give us a song," and I would do the Wild Rover or Carrickfergus or one of those. I'd do wee songs.
Just as you say, Carrickfergus, I told the story that myself and Tiernan Lynch ended up back in the chimney corner one night. You must have been commentating on the game,
right?
But I had only about £8 left, and Tiernan had about 6. So I had seen Keith Rowland had said number 21. So we ended up putting the drink all in his room, and I said, "Gerry, what do you want?" I'll never forget it. You were drinking Baileys that night, and I just kept getting you a drink. You never bought one back, by the way. But we just. So, but here, I didn't buy any either, but I'll never forget it because you sang Carrickfergus that night. Yeah. And we ended up, we were to bring the kit to the bus. They played Germany, I think, in Windsor Park. And myself and Tiernan Lynch were to be at Windsor to help with the German team to put all the kit on with Ian McFall. Right. And we ended up, we never left the chimney corner at about 7 o'clock that morning. We ended up having to walk home because there was no money. But we put all the drink money on Keith Rowland's hotel room.
Good lad, Keith. Good lad. Good memory.
The Germans had to carry their own kit, and you said that day.
Gerry, you have a story about Jerry Clark. Kieran McGuigan told me to give it a wee mention.
Yeah, it's Billy Millen now. I've spoke to Jerry since that, and Jerry said he always tells that story. He said, and it's not true, but it's still a good story. So Billy Millen told the story that about 30 years ago, he was going through Belfast. He was coming past the BBC, and he said he saw Jerry Clark coming out of the BBC, and Jerry in those days had a wee bit of a stutter. And he says, Jerry, he says, how are you keeping? All right? And Jerry says, I'm okay, but Billy, he said, what are you doing in the BBC? He said, I was in for a job interview. And he says, oh, right, okay. He says, what as? And he said, as a commentator. And he said, oh, how did you get on? He says, did you get the job? He says, no, I didn't get the job. Billy. He says, why not? He says, because I'm a fucking Catholic. It's typical Billy Millen, you know, telling that story. He's told me a couple of other ones as well that are really funny, but it doesn't matter whether they're true or not. It's just the delivery, you know, and the way he tells them. He's on the phone to me from Australia, which is great to keep in touch. And I was talking to Brian Hamilton, and Brian knows Billy from his Linfield days. And Brian started off, I didn't know he started off at the distillery, and then ended up going to Linfield, and then went to Ipswich, and so on and so forth. But everybody has these wee paths. And I remember playing against Brian. He was playing for Millwall in midfield, and I was at Tottenham, and I was playing right back that day for Spurs at White Hart Lane. And I think it finished 2-2 draw. It was a Boxing Day game. And Brian, I didn't know then, afterwards, Brian became a manager of Tranmere, and then obviously became manager in Northern Ireland, and I became his assistant. And we had 3-4 great years together developing the team. And the stories, I could tell you great stories, like with Jim Magilton, Ian Dye, they were best mates. But Jim, very talented footballer, great skills and technique. And I remember one day I used to do a shooting session where they knocked the ball in, and I would lay it off on an angle and come in and for one touch finish, it was have a shot from just around the edge of the D. And then I'd say, right, chip the ball into my hands, and they'd chip it into my hands, and I would throw it up for a volley, or I'd bounce it, and it would be a half volley or whatever. So I'd give them different degrees, and it could be left foot or right foot. And I said, the rules are, if you hit the target, it's no points if the keeper saves it. If you miss the target, it's -5. And if you score with your shot, it's +5. So we count the points up. So Ian Dye's got his team on one side, Jim Magilton's got his team on the other side. And it's gone on for about 10, 15 minutes. And the footballers are competitive, and they all want to score goals, and they all want to do different stuff. And I said, okay. I said, and it was tight. There was like a couple of points in it. And I said, right, last 5 shots. So it's 5 shots from each side. So 5 on that side, and it's hitting the target, and it's keeping the scores, and it's down to the last 2. And Philip Mulran, Father Philip Mulran, right? He's coming up, and Jim Magilton's going, don't you let me down, me man, come on. And I said, chip it into me, Phil, and he chipped it in, and he's right foot or left foot. Phil was good on either side, and I threw it up in the volley, up in the air for his left foot, and he come and hit it straight in the top left-hand corner, absolute screamer. And Jim Magilton spontaneously goes, oh, not bad for a wee petrol bomber. That was the sort of banter we had. And, you know, everybody loved it. And Brian always tells the story, when we were manager and assistant manager, we went to play in Liechtenstein. And it was a morning off, and I said, "What? Look at the mountains." I said, "Come on, we'll go for a wee trip." He says, "Well, take the lads for a walk. We'll go up the mountains." And we're walking up the mountains, and it was gorgeous weather. It was April, May. You know, the snow had started to melt, and we were going to go on one of the cable cars to take us across. And as we're walking up, the lads are all together, and Brian was very aware, like, you know, of you don't mention anything about the orange and the green and stuff like that. So I'm a raker. Like, I love a bit of fun. So I started whistling. At the back, I started whistling the sash, and he could hear it, and then I started to sing it, and he's going, "Hey, who's singing that?" And the boys are all laughing, so they open up, and it's me, like, I'm assistant manager, going, "The chance if I got to the players when he said you're doing this," and I said, "It's only a fun, Brian, you know, and the lads are having fun and they're enjoying it. It's just lightheartedness that keeps the boys on their toes and keeps them laughing, you know." But that's what you got to do when you're in the management trade. You have to keep people happy and make it worthwhile. So those are the sort of things that kept us amused.
Brilliant. Gerry, I played at Coleraine, obviously, with your nephew Sean.
Yes.
Big Army, who's now Wee Army. But see, when we used to get him drunk, which would be very often, he does the commentary of your goal against Spain. I don't know why he's ever done it for you. Absolutely amazing. The next time you see him, when he's a few babies in him, get him to do it. He has it to a T. And Hamilton out on the right puts it in. Armstrong. He was some crack. Big Sean's a legend.
Good players, Eagle, Gerry.
Done well. One was an Irish Cup medal at Coleraine. And then another one at the Glens. He won one at the Glens as well.
Yeah. Great lad. See the banter and the crack we used to have. Me and him used to torture each other, as you say, about the crack among the teammates and stuff. Brilliant. You told that story about you heard about the Beckhams.
Yes.
Where he says, tell him keep an eye on those 2 ton of bricks, and they brought the bricks into the living room. He turns up on the Monday morning and he says they actually changed their name to Victoria and David Beckham by Depot, and Army was building an extension 2 doors down, and they had 2 ton of brick arrive on the Friday, and he says, Victoria, David, you couldn't keep an eye on those bricks, and Victoria and David says, yes, no problem. And Army turns up on the Monday morning and goes down. There was 4 empty pallets, and he was wrapped David and Victoria's Beckham's front door, and he says, where's my bricks? Smudger will kill me. He says, come on in. They had carried them into their living room the whole weekend.
Class.
Gerry, you have a story about Sammy McElroy. Tell us about that.
That's a great story. Sammy was my guest on a few weeks ago on the first of the live question and answers we did. And I said to him about when he went over to Manchester United, and he said, he says, I was in the squad, and he said it was 1972, I think it was. He said, I was in the hotel with the players, and he said, Frank O'Farrell was the manager, and he came in and said, Sammy, you're playing today. He said, Dennis Law has failed the fitness test. He said, so you're playing, you're making your debut. And it was against Manchester City. So he's on the coach on the way in from the hotel, and George is with him, and he said, listen, good luck today, Sammy. He said, now, see if you score a goal today. He says, I'm going to give you a present. So he said, okay. So he said, in the game, George beats a couple of people and sticks it through to Sammy, and Sammy pushes it into the back of the net, and it finished a 3-3 draw. And he says, come into training on the Monday, and George is presented with a big magnum of champagne. And he says, I wouldn't even open it for 15 years. He said, I had it. He said, I loved the fact that it was from George Best. But he said, about 6 or 8 months later, I've been called up into the international team. And he said, we were playing our games then in Hull because they couldn't play in Belfast. So he said, we're playing in Hull, 1972, 73, it has to be. And he said, basically, he said, we're playing Spain in a game. And he said, and I think he made his debut the same day as Martin O'Neill. They both made their debut against Spain on that day. But he said, George and him were out drinking after the game on the Saturday night. And about 11:30, Sammy says, right, I'm going to go home. He says, I'm going to get ready for tomorrow. And George says, look, don't worry. He says, I'll meet you at the train station at Manchester. We'll go to Hull. He says, I'll get the tickets. Don't worry. Meet you there at 9 o'clock on the platform. And he says, not a problem. So the next day, Sammy's there at 10 to 9 and no sign of George. And then 5 to 9, no sign of George. And then 9 o'clock. George isn't here and the train's pulling up, so Sammy has to get his own ticket, gets on the train, and away he goes to Hull on the Sunday morning. Anyway, he said on the Tuesday, I think the manager was Terry Neal, and he was manager of Hull and Northern Ireland, and he said on the Tuesday, he said, George turns up at the hotel in Hull, but he's got Miss Great Britain on his arm, he's trailing her along. And he told me the girl's name, Miss Great Britain, and he came up to Sammy, and there was actually a bit of a parley went on between the players, and Terry said, look, George hasn't been here for the 2 days. He said, you know, do you want me to consider him to play or what? And the players all said, no, George has got to play, you know, pick him. No. So anyway, George ended up playing. But afterwards, Sammy said he was chatting with George, and George said, I'm sorry. He says, I didn't meet you in the train station on the Sunday morning. He said, I'm sorry about that. He says, but he said, I picked your woman up, he said, on the Saturday night. And I thought, I woke up the next day at 8 o'clock, and I thought, shall I go to the train station to meet Sammy, or shall I stay in bed with Miss Griffin? I'll stay in bed with Miss Griffin. So that's the story behind that. Sammy told me some great stories about him and George, you know?
Absolutely. Well, Gerry, our regular feature is who's your four ball you take into the pub afterwards, dead or alive?
Four ball? Is this golf?
Yeah, yes, but it is golf. You don't have to play golf.
All right, okay. Well, look, I'd always take Pat Jennings with me. He was my roommate for 10 years and my best mate. I love Pat. I would always have him. If you're looking for humour, you have to take Jimmy Nicholl.
Brilliant.
You have to take Jimmy Nicholl. So it would have to be Jimmy Nicholl, Pat Jennings, and I don't know, it's either Billy Hamilton or Martin O'Neill, one of those two, because both of them are, we had so many characters. It wasn't just one. We had like 6, 7, 8 lads who were great entertainers, and we kept each other amused, you know, and Martin is fantastic crack, you know, and he probably tell you, he would tell you, but we went to play Iceland and it was Pat Jennings' birthday in the early 70s, and I don't think I was playing. I think I was on the bench, and we ended up losing the Iceland 1-0. And we went out for Pat's birthday and went into a bar, and we're in the bar having a drink, and I was with Terry Cochran and Martin O'Neill, and this Icelandic guy is coming past, and he was a big unit, and he's bumped into us because he's been drinking, and he's bumped into us, and Martin sort of spilled part of his drink, and then Martin said, "What are you doing, you clown?" And he looked up at this big guy. It's like, and Martin sort of said, and he said, the guy growls at him, and he went, "What's your problem?" Martin says, "Morning." He said, "See if you do that again." He says, "What?" He said, "He'll hit you." And he and he got me into trouble that night, I have to say, because it didn't end very well. But lots of stuff like that, you know, we had lots of fun. But those are the sort of 4 people I would definitely take with me all day long.
Maybe you get a couple of those to come on the podcast, Gerry.
Yes, I will do. Listen, Jimmy Nicholl, I tell you, he's so much fun. I love running. I love jogging and doing my exercises. So I do the jogging with Gerry, you know, and Debbie. I get Deborah in, and she does it.
I'll be watching them as well.
It's got to be done, but it's exercise. It just makes you feel good. You get the endorphin rush afterwards.
Yeah, I actually meant to say, my brother did a fashion show with your wife, Debbie, for Torbank Special School in the Stormont Hotel. Jesus, it must be 15 years ago. You were there too, actually.
It was 16 years ago.
How do you know?
Because that's when I just after I'd been out. I don't get out like 2 months. This is Debbie here. Debbie's here.
How are you?
Tom.
My brother worked up in Torbank, and they were doing a thing for, well, it was charity. Stephen Nolan did it, and you and him walked up the catwalk together. He actually told me to say it to you, and I flipping forgot about it.
Oh, very good.
Very good.
Brilliant.
Listen, it's been great talking to you, lads. I hope you've enjoyed some of this.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Gerry.
Really appreciate your time, Gerry. Thanks very much indeed.
Welcome, Gerry.
Cheers, Gerry. Thank you. Speak to you
All
soon.
the best.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So welcome to today's show. Today we're with yet another Irish League legend, Vinny Sweeney, and of course, Gerry and I. I always forget Mr. Flynn. How could I ever forget you, Gerry?
I know you always do. That's the first time you remembered episode 7.
Vinny, welcome to the show. Great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you, lads. Thank you. You're welcome.
Good to see you, Vinny.
So, Vinny,
Cheers,
just to start, tell us a wee bit about yourself and your background.
I'm just a local lad from Derry City, so played the Irish League with Cliftonville, Ballymena, and finished my Crusaders and stuff as well and then starting off with Limavady. But football's been a big part of our life, you know, just and putting into going to training, self-discipline, all of these small things. But I love training in general, keeping yourself fit and healthy, and the surroundings of people of you know, from your youth days and stuff like that, and all your friends. And it's just, I took that into everything, even your own work as well, like where you're going training. But people need to understand us. Like, we've grew up in a football change room, and a football change room is a lot of banter going around. You know, like there's stories going around, you know, flying around. Like you could be getting a new pair of shoes and somebody could cut your laces and no fun stuff like that. And you used to get so frustrated, and you're coming in, you're trying to tie your lace, and there's no laces there. You're like days ago, I was easy target. It used to be a wee hothead, you know, and lost that flat, you know, and then people used to get on you and things. But that was part of the game, and there were so many characters going through, even space like Limavady or Ballymena and things like that. And football was amazing for me, even playing against Gerry and stuff with his Korean or Yuri and stuff like that. It was brilliant. You know, we that's all gone now, you know, from the competitive side. And you miss it. That's why I look out when it's obviously on Saturday, look out for the Irish League scores just because you've got a connection there with them, and football's just a massive part of art. It's, believe it or not, from that sport for life, like it's just led on to so many things for me. Like.
And are you still involved in the game at all now?
I have my own gym now, so my goal is to build a youth strength condition where I see a market for young footballers, just to improve their strength condition, because even at the Irish League level, 26 before I done my cruciate ligament, playing in Europe at Cliftonville, I never done a squat or a sit-up properly, and technique and showing me things that I've never went into a strength condition session. And most of us footballers just wanted to get fit and healthy and whatever, and we thought like doing the right things, but they're so important more to it. You only see the top level guys like Ronaldo, how nutrition's important, how recovery is important, and how your strength condition is important. And that was why it led on to so many injuries for, unfortunately, Irish League players, because they were saying they were facing, they were out working for the day and then going to training then at night was a lot they asked, but it was more about the enjoyment part of it as well, But just when I played Irish League, and then I went into Derry City, it was more of a professional everyday training with Stephen Kenny. The gap was massive because you were training every day. Your perspective and your mindset was like, I need to look after my body and health. We're getting their strength conditions, we're getting their recovery. And that's why so many players make it from the Aircom League to England rather than the Irish League, I think, because they're better prepared. Then why I set up a gym, that if you get this strength condition at a young age, you get your recovery well, you get educated well, I bring the right team together, because no matter who you are and how special or how good a player you are, you need a team. Like even you look at Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi, they have a team of 10 people, physios, nutritionists. When you have that all together, you'll become something, because you can't, and that has a level of like, if one person can do amazing things, but if there's 10 people there, well, that 10 people is going to destroy that one person. And this is what I mean, building a player. I always loved Arsene Wenger's status, where he said, it's like building a house, build the foundation first, then we build the house, put in the windows, and then we put in the roof. And you could see what he done with football players. It was absolutely brilliant. They look at the Henrys and the Fieras and the Lindberghs and the things, and they weren't world beaters, but they went on then and done world beating things and became world class players. And that always stuck with me, where I don't think Arsene Wenger gets enough credit as a manager and as a businessman, the way Arsenal was. And I looked deep in and I was like, this boy is a genius. He turned the whole game for me in the Premier League. He definitely did. From if you speak to players, past and present, he changed the game of nutrition, and he changed the game how it should be played. Like the style and play and the way the pitch was, and and there was always the Man United that Gerry would support, or the Liverpools, but and I believe that Arsene Wenger was the game changer for the Premier League. They took us to a standard as a day. Every ground had the standard of tick from the Highbury or the Emirates. Every ground had wanted to play the Arsenal way. And that's only my opinion, but everybody else has a different opinion. But then you have to have the winner mentality. We have the Roy Keanes in there, and obviously Man United had that, where I thought the psychology of Alex Ferguson was unbelievable. I just thought it was just cuter than Wenger, unfortunately, and that's why the mind games caught him. And that's where Wenger's downfall was Ferguson's, the rise, and that's what came to it.
I wasn't going to agree with you there with Wenger, Finney. A big United fan, I can't do that, but no, you're right, 100%. Fergie was the genius. Like that year, he outwitted. He get into Kevin Keegan's head was the most famous one, but he just absolutely cracked, and then it showed on his team. And then Newcastle just threw it away when a stronger person, or better had it been Keegan doing it to Fergie, it would never would have happened. Fergie was a genius at it. He took the pressure of all the players as well. No, 100%. Did you do your cruciate in before you went to Derry City, or
before
after?
I went to Derry? I done it in 26 prime, really the prime. We were playing against. Well, you always wanted to play in Europe, didn't we? Yeah. It's always wanted to test yourself at that sort of level. Cliftonville, we beat Dingaberg first time. Well, qualifying for the Europe is most important. I scored a goal against Crusaders. That led us on to get in the qualifying. Obviously, then on the financial, which is a good purse as well for Irish League clubs. And then obviously won the first round, qualifying for the next one against again. Unfortunately, then just as was the second leg at home on Windsor. I tore my cruciate. Actually played on for 10 minutes, not really realizing the adrenaline and the blood flowing, how much damage I done. Like, but this is hindsight, you know. And this is us, as, you know, footballers. You know, that's silly, but the adrenaline, I never really felt it when I switched the ball. It just snapped. I knew something was wrong. I knew that I was like this. But I know a lot of.
Did you come back? Did you come back? How long did it take you coming back from that one before it went to games?
It took me. I done 9 months rehab in the gym. 9 months. It was a very bad place. One, because it was a tiler as well. I had my own business tiling, and obviously finance from that. And like everybody else had their bills to pay. And then the wages of football helped a little. And no, when you're not playing, you don't feel a part of the team. No, there's no, like, mentally, you're just not involved. You're not training. And you're in the gym yourself. This is where the mental battle I think I won, where I can go for the risk what I done there the weekend, the 100 miles. It all started from here. It started from here. It started when I went down to the gym. I was curious, looking around the gym. I didn't want to go on. I thought it was full of, what would people say?
Posers.
Posers. Here we go. There we go. I probably named one the other day. Which it's just a skeptical thing that we think of, just lower self-esteem, or maybe judgmental of that. All the gyms full of these posers. But when I went down there, I made a lot of friends, and that changed me thinking. But not only that, I fell in love with training then even more. The many people was willing to help me in the rehab.
You didn't have any of the qualifications that you have now at all, staying out of options.
No, I had just a few physios, and then I had a few instructors, because obviously finance wasn't really, I was just using the gym. I was just following maybe an odd PT session, and then following a structure of just rehab of ACL, and just having my drive and determination. I knew it was like, my goal was, I always visualize, if you can see it on here, you can hold it out here. And if I can see it on here, I always knew that my visualization to walk out and play for Derry City someday. And, and it might sound crazy at that time. I felt like a million miles away. But if I put in the work, even through some of the spin classes I was doing, I still always visualized like getting back playing. The most important was just to get back playing and get fit and healthy again, because it's a major operation. And there's a lot of players that are through the toil on, and which is understandable because it's part-time job. They have a family, they have bills and stuff like that there, and it's a big commitment. But nobody sees that side, Gerry, knowing you're an Irish League player, and I don't think they don't get enough credit, where they give up so much of their time to try and improve and then be ready for a Saturday. Especially the lower clubs, which are not getting much fan base or whatever, and maybe not much finance pay, but they're some players they give up a lot of their time. They obviously just football's be a big part of their life, but to be at that level, you want to go out and compete with them on fields, or Glentorrans or Crusaders, Clifton Bulls, at the end of the week, you need to be at some decent order of fitness, and you don't want to be getting embarrassed every week to be, like, you know what I mean? So you got to be putting in the work as well.
A lot of the boys don't actually see the hard work that goes in, the sacrifices. Now, it sounds silly, we're not going out with your mates on a Friday night to have a drink, or a Thursday, and especially coming from Limavady or coming from Derry, where you're coming from, up and down to Cliftonville 2 nights a week, a game on a Saturday, and then you've got your Christmases, your Easters, where everyone else and all your friends and family are having their Christmas dinners and are having their beers, where you can't do it, and if you're dedicated, like I'd never done it, but there's sacrifices there that people, as you rightly say, don't see.
No, well, I'll always looked around the change room, and I always knew who the people was going to make it after football. The boys were doing the small things right. This, obviously, I would have looked at yourself probably with your boots clean, just having your bag, being prepared. no, you're preparing for yourself for battle on a Saturday, and I seen that, and I was all like, I'm glad he's in my team.
Yeah.
Do you know? I'm glad that he's in my team. And we had a few boys we were dragging along. We're very talented, but they're going like, "Are you for real? Like, is this the way you're turning up? Your half cut or no?" And it did happen sometimes, you know. And like you're going,
I signed quite a few of them for Newry, so I know who you're talking about without
no,
naming.
and do you know? And I was like, this can't be real. Like, and no, and they're getting this. It is a part-time job because you are getting paid for it, and they weren't taking it serious, and that was hurtful some weeks seeing that. But just looking at the talent they had as well was even more. And but looking back on it, Jerry, now, growing older was like they obviously were going through a hard time of maybe being rejected from England and stuff like that, and a lot going on in their head, and you wouldn't know what's been going on at home and stuff like that. So there's always where I was jumping to conclusions there, even though it was like I was being selfish. I wanted them to be ready for my team, and you should be that. But obviously, maybe obviously whatever came from England or whatever's going on in their life as well, they were doing that, you know, and they were only really hurting themselves and letting themselves down. But this is, in hindsight, you look back and you go, I wish you could change a lot of things. But at the end of the day, it was only a game of football at the same stretch as well. But it was a battle, which I really enjoyed. And really must, you know, and you must go out there. It's just there's something about being competitive and no just playing a match in a set. It's just all your worries go away. It's just everything just it's like a release, you know. And I would love everybody to get it. They feel it. They see like this is
only if you win. Only if you win, though. That's the only thing. Because if you were beat, then you were like the Tuesday night.
Well, a sore bum.
Yeah, well, if you were prepared right, you have a good chance of winning, you know. And this is where even players were probably even like yourself are better than even players like myself. But you're trying to get a reaction of player, so you're trying to put them off their game. So it was all psychology and even that. So what came from me was like having the manager at Limavady where we were struggling, and then Tommy Wright came in, and I was like, oh my God. Like he walked in the room and said, everybody from youth players, anybody who was in that room, there's 40 people in the room, and he came in that night, he goes, I know where I'm going. If you want to come and join me, everybody in this room is going to get an opportunity. And that's when I fell in love with Tommy Wright and what he's done for me in that career. His professionalism, and you know, it was the same players, maybe one or two players he had it, and we nearly qualified for Europe the next year when he stepped on. It was fun, like he done a job there. Like he has to look back and going like he must be proud of it because it was phenomenal what he done. You know, he created that energy, and the professionalism, you know, coming down the road and everything, preparation, and just the small things done right can lead you on to, and that for me was the biggest learning curve in football I've ever seen. I've never seen nothing like it. Like, you know,
you just have to look at it now. You know, obviously he's left St Johnstone. He is the favourite to take the Northern Ireland job. Done a great job at St Johnstone, and you can see why that he is probably favourite to take the Northern Ireland job.
So professional, Jerry. You know, like I mean, probably like yourself. You know, like wanting to do well for yourself, and sometimes your personality clash with people like that because they're such winners. You know, like they're just they want everything right for you, and they want you to do well and have all that preparation ready for Saturday or whatever it is in life. And these Titans, sometimes you're on the same level as him, you're going to clash him. Many times I like clashing with Ballymena, but we always made up after 2 minutes later. And looking where he's going now, it's just brilliant. As is Stephen Kenny as well at Derry City. The two of them were phenomenal. Like, for me, like they have the two managers played under them, and then they see where they're at is special. They see him running, maybe one going for their country, Tommy, and then obviously Stephen getting, like they were saying, they were going these places. Obviously, they visualised it in their head, and then they're reaching their goals. But obviously, they're on the job and have to do the job. Stephen's record speaks for itself, and a lot of people are doubting him, but I can see Ireland where a youth development where he's took over 21s, and I think it's going to be a massive success. I think we've really hit the jackpot here with Stephen Kenny bringing through, and you're giving young. What has Ireland got to lose? You know that bringing that youth through now is that's what it's all about, and I think he's a man for it. As is Tommy, following Michael O'Neill. You know, I follow both of them. I definitely do. It's just the connection I have. I love. I've been at the Northern Ireland game where they won 1-0 with David Healy when I played with Ballymena, which was very lucky to get that ticket through Tommy. And I always thank him for that, because it was an amazing night. David Healy scoring against England 1-0, and it's one of them things going like, where were we at night? I was at Munster Park, you know. So, and the football, I love football, and it's been, as I said, it's been a massive part of my life. Where it is, it's Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, if it's Man United, or Arsenal, and I love the Arsenal way. And this might surprise you, when people ask you your favourite player, and my favourite player, to be honest, is Steven Gerrard. Steven Gerrard, what he done in the Champions League final for me, 3-0 down, psychology. I'm all on the psychology. That header for me was, I became a massive fan that night. I never seen a winner like it. Drive a team through, and sometimes when I get down and stuff, I go on to YouTube and watch that final again, because it was a turning point for football. AC Milan didn't really concede many goals, and they scored like 3 in 10 minutes, 11, and he was the captain of it, and you know, and this is where leadership quality comes in. You can be a boss, you can point the finger, but that was leadership qualities for me. And as I said to you at the start of the podcast, or anybody, or somebody cutting your list, I'm glad he's in my team, because we can get out of this hole. Like, and that changed for me. And looking back, and as a football fan, I was drawn under it that night. I was like, this can't be happening. It was amazing, and still to this day, you're looking back and going, did that really happen? You know, 3-0 down.
Thank God he's a rubbish manager. He's a brilliant player, but he's a rubbish manager. It was absolutely excellent that night, and I have to say I agree with you. I thought he was fantastic, really, really good. But I'm delighted he's doing really poorly at the management so far anyway.
No. Well, I have a few friends who probably agree with you there too as well. Like, but no, at the start, you know, he's done an amazing job as well for what he has. You have to look at the finances. People don't see in the background, where us as fans, where probably me and Gerry would look on a wee bit more, because obviously he's been a manager. And I know on the football side, like even for Tommy, if the finance is not there, you can't compete at the top level, you know. And knowing Celtics took it away ahead for finance, and obviously they've been there around winning leagues, and Stephen hasn't won many leagues, you know. Don't want to be hurting his feelings there, but he can't really be shouting about many leagues. But for loyalty to the club and leadership, I respect him a lot, you know, as Terry Henry, and but he hurt me when he handled the ball, so I can't feel out of love with him.
Who do you actually support? Who would be your team? Who is it?
Arsenal is my team. I know Henry was mine with a frame picture and all, but Gerry hurt me. He actually hurt me at night as well. I nearly went out the window. But I still love him, you know, and look, for obviously what he done in the Premier League.
You would probably say he's probably the best Premiership player if he was incredible.
You know, I would say the kicker with was probably even Cantona with French. You know, like a skill he had, and them, like, for me, this might sound crazy, and people go, Vanny, you're mad, because I study people that are like, and I know, like, Eric Cantona was not a normal person. He was just a genius. The things he done on the pitch, the things he wore, the things he even says today, he's going, this guy just thinks outside the box. He doesn't think like most people. And like, he was the starting point of Manchester United's success, without a doubt. You know,
he was the catalyst. He came in and he just changed. Everyone's seen him after training, and you know what he was eating and the way he was, you know, conducting himself, and you know, all the younger players like Beckham and Giggs and Neville all bought into it as well. But but to me, like, Cantona, I was only saying that just to keep you happy because you come on the podcast about Henry. But I'm a football fan. You know, I was a staunch, you know, Arsenal fan. I'm very biased, and then you open up and you're going, these people have done amazing things. As young players like James McLean and stuff like that, with against all odds, you know, like, you're coming from Derry, you know, you're coming from, no, you're not meant to make it. And then you reach the highest level, or Stuart Dallas, and come from Crusaders, and you're going start from the bottom, and then you go, he's a star player for Leeds, you know, and that makes me proud. I'm going, these are my teammates one time, and I'm going, they've just proved me right.
to my friends is saying these guys can reach the stars. Obviously, with hard work and dedication and the right education over there, they have took that on board. But I believe that comes from their hard graft from the Irish League and the Aircom League, where they were getting a lot of setbacks and stuff like that. And they were ready for England, where if you go over at 16, you're only a kid, you know, and that's where I think a lot of people get it wrong going over too early. I think they should look at the Sturdy situation. They should look at James' situation. That is, you don't have to go over too soon, you know, to make a career for the rest of your life, because at the end of the day, that is your rest of your life and your finance, you know. Like, you know, and I look at life, people look at different things as finance, you know, as a massive finance. You could be on £300 at Derry City a week, but then you're on 50 grand a week with Sunderland. And then all of a sudden you're thinking, well, I'm losing £48,000 a week, or 48,000 because I'm only, no, you're not really, because you're on a different level. But that's the gap. That's how lucky, if you sign at England and you make it, you become not only a multi-millionaire, you become a superstar, you become your celebrity. There's everything that comes with a footballer now, and the pressure, and like, you only have to look at social media, Paul Pogba, and like, it's ridiculous, some of the comments people make, and from professional players as well. And for me, it all comes down to envious that he's now, the game has changed. We'll mention Graham Souness because it seems to be he does a real side. You know, but you know, and you see, I look at him and I see a lot of regret there and going like, he's making so much financial money, where I know I won the European Cup and I've been a better player than him, but he's not given what he should be to the club. And yes, to a certain extent he has got some points here, but in the other stretch, this guy is obviously Sky TV there now, social media there, you're a marketing tool. You know, when you sign a player, like you're signing somebody, it's something going to market. You know, like if you only sign Ronaldo, like that 100 million's coming back in the first end shirt sales alone. Like, people don't understand that. If you're signing Pogba, the same thing. These guys are marketing tools, and they're not stupid as well. So they bought on that as well. They know who's all watching, and fair play to them. You know, and that all comes from Beckham. I think it's changed the game where he became, when this all finishes. Like, and if I could tell you the Beckham situation, you look at, he had in his contract when he signed for LA Galaxy that he could own a club in 10 years' time when he signed for LA Galaxy. I bet you didn't know that.
No.
That was it. And then he moved from LA Galaxy to Milan, Paris, and different areas around the world. So he just built his brand even more. It was genius what he done. And people wouldn't look at that guy. It was genius. He said he was a starter.
He was here. He was a marketing genius because he wore an Alice band and Jerry Flynn copied him with Cool Rain.
But Jerry could get away with it. He had the hair and the flag.
I'm going to need another one by the time I get my hair cut over here. Yeah. Benny, the one thing, obviously I spoke to you last Sunday night about asking you to come on, but the one thing I noticed, you're in a completely different place compared to when I played against you. Like, you were a hot wire, you were always angry, you wanted to fight everybody. Like, do you remember the time in the Uri car park with Packy? You grabbed Packy by the nose and saying that you couldn't miss his nose. It's he had the biggest nose Gary's. But you know, and again, at one stage I actually inquired about signing you for Newry as well. Just, I'm not sure whether it was before you went to Crusaders or after it. I can't remember what happened, or you ended up retiring. But no, you've just, as I say, we were explaining off camera there that you've inspired me. I've started this whole fitness kick, and it's actually from speaking to you. But I actually thought I was speaking to a completely different person compared to the Vinny that I knew maybe 10, 15 years ago. Would that be the right assessment?
It's a right assessment, but believe it or not, this is what I wanted to say in one of your questions, was I'd be a very private person. But I grew up in 12 family that people don't really realise. It was 9 brothers and 3 sisters. You know, like, and my journey was hard. Not to say we weren't. It was brilliant. It was amazing because obviously there was lots going on every day and nobody understood that story, and that'll come out in the football. Like, you know, not every kid believes in Santa, you know, and then your house gets burnt down and you're 10 years of age, and the Christmas Eve at 3:15, and you're picking yourself up and going, there's no toys, you're on the street, and things like that hurts, and that's not for every kid they see. that pain was going through my life, and I never had answers for it. And then obviously when I was 14, then my oldest brother then took his life in suicide, which I thought nobody was doing. And there was many other things, but that was 2 things that really stuck out for me. It was hard to deal with, and people were questioning. No one was walking the street, and teachers asked me and what happened and what suicide, and I never had any answers for them. But my answer was just getting on the football pitch and releasing it and trying to fight everybody, as you probably seen on the pitch. But that's where it was coming from, and I never understood that until I had to grow as a person. I told you, friction and pain, and I want to apologise for who I was in the proof, because it was just a wee, like I've apologising to everybody and most referees, but there was the competitive side. Looking at that was my own worst enemy, because yes, it was good to be competitive, but you were no good to anybody when you went in the red zone and getting sent off, and you're trying to fight with everybody. It became I didn't enjoy it as much as I should. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it, because obviously winning was amazing, and that was my goal. And that's why I look up to guys like Roy King and stuff like that, because they're 6 really driven winners. And I always look deep inside and going, like, how is this guy so driven? How is he, like, what drives him to do this? And then obviously he has his own background like everybody else. And I've yet to see the perfect human being. And then when you put out your story, a lot of people can connect with what's going on in life, and knowing obviously other people have their own troubles and stuff like that. And it's hard to give out your journey, and I think everybody will go through a little bit of depression through life, and question a lot of things, because it's very hard to figure out your journey. When you're born, they're not giving you a path to say this is how you should live your life or whatever. We're basically guessing it, really. Yeah, and we find our way whole way through, and everybody's different in this world, and I reckon to get through this world and it's kindness. That's the most gratitude, and that's where I've changed. I think I had to get in deep inside and get into my thoughts and get into my mind and say, what is going on here? And I do a little bit of gratitude, the yoga, the cold showers. I do training, and I look at every day. If it's people might laugh, it's me last, because I've just fell on me. Obviously, the guys like Mark Farn and Ryan McBride, and you think people would never die, and obviously my mother passing away, and that was a big changing point for me. I had enough, and I just said, right, I'm going to do something that's going to just help people. I built a gym there, which people physically come in and use it, but that wasn't enough for me. I've got a social media platform now where I can use and lift people's spirits every day, and just be saying the right things or having a wee bit of fun, and maybe using a wee bit of football banter what we had, in the change room. It was amazing, Gerry. Even though all these times we went out, they won. Even sometimes he lost, people would have had a go at me, because they would have knew I got a spark because I cared that much, and I probably cared too much. And ever cut my lisses up, or putting DP in my pants or whatever. No things get. I know you're like looking back and going, that's not normal. But I thought it was normal. I thought that was normal until we fell in the real world. My missus and all, they were all like, you just can't do this. This is not real. But I just thought that football banter, growing up 12 of a family, 9 brothers, that this was how I fight for everything. And no, if you weren't eating in that house, you weren't fast. You weren't eating. Simple as that. And it was a hard go, but
was it your brother's anniversary? 30th. It would have been his 55th birthday. Or
55th birthday. It was on 6th of June, on Saturday. So that's why I done the 100 miles. It was something I didn't really train for. Or I wasn't really. The goal was never completing the 100 miles. That was never. I know I put it out there for the marker. Yeah. The goal was about inspiring and lifting people, going the hardest part for me was walking in the gym, and so many people have low self-esteem and confidence and stuff like that there. And it's not about me. It can't be about you, because then you're taking everything away from it. It's about the girl Brona who just lost her husband, who came on from the cycling, who was 29 years of age and dropped dead. She lost her father a few years before that, at 55. And just terrible tragedies. The guy that was lying on the sofa coming over to do one lap, the guys just coming out, they lift their spirits because obviously what we're on, the COVID-19 and stuff like that. And then we had different things, just trying to lift people. The guys, we done the 4-4s before that. My preparation was 48, a couple of weeks ago before. You don't only know what I done the last laps. I done 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. That was like totaling up crazy. So no sleep. And then the last lap, because Brona was there and there was a big crowd there, and I followed David Goggins, and because he's done it and it's his for the battle, I took off my shoes and run on my bare feet for the last 4.
I thought you were going to say you took your clothes off.
Some of the girls were looking to take their clothes off.
Billy, did you complete the 100 miles the other on Saturday night there?
101 miles, roughly, but
24 hours.
24. So the target for me was every 6 hours or 25 miles. No, I think most people can do a marathon in 3.5 or 4 hours, maybe. Let's say, but average person, maybe I don't know 5. But just say the average person, elite athletes are getting it under 3. So my target was just on keep it comfortable. I'm very anti-scientifically, where fitness is, get in the red zone, don't burn out, stay in the yellow zone where we get heart rates to 130, 140, which if I had a new Ullis playing football, I might have been, and I wouldn't be battling all you boys a wee bit, I would have had the energy, because it's being smart, it's about using your energy at the right time. I know, and my energy was obviously just to get through the race. And it was 400 laps around the 400 meter track, 400 times. So believe it or not, there's a guy to be following Goggins who was like picking souls, and I just kept listening to the one track going, don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. It's like a Navy SEALs I was saying. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. And I was like, I am prepared to do anything to break the stigma of mental health. If this is going to help somebody, I'm going to keep driving. If it's Brona to get her out in the last day, my mommy, as it's John's birthday, I had all this drive through me and going like, I want to change something. And, and that was my drive to finish the race. I know it sounds crazy, but running at 2 o'clock in the morning.
But you've never even done a marathon before.
No, but sure.
You would do a marathon, then you'd say, right, okay, I'm going to try and do 100 mile after that. It would give you a benchmark, but you didn't. You just went out and ran the 100 mile.
Well, my target was, I broke it down, Gerry. I was trying to, power walking would take me down for 14, 15-minute miles, which would have given me 4 miles every hour, which I was targeting. Right. And that over 24 hours would have given me 96 miles if I had done 15-minute miles, which I think anybody could do walking in a 15-minute mile with a decent pace, just nice and comfortable. We're not going on the red zone. We don't start off too quick, where a lot of people in marathons are hitting times and we're all like, look at me and my ego and I can have this. But it was never about that. It was about just completing the race. So I used that to me, I put it down, and I believe anybody could do this if they sit down and work out their path. And this is why you need a schedule in life, where you get up early in the morning, you don't lose momentum, and with this COVID-19 is where this all leads into the whole path of the 100 miles. Using the 100 miles was like breaking it down, 15-minute miles. We had 96 miles with 20 hours, but some of them could have been 12-minute miles, and I would have made that up early. So I had having money in the bank, basically, that I could buy back in and say, right, I have some miles here near the end. I can sort of and take an easier pace round. And that's what happened. I had about 4 or 5 miles spare on the time. I finished in 23:43 or 23:50 something. And I had a few minutes to spare that I could just not go too fast around the last few miles, and I had them to buy on it. And I believe we are limiting ourselves with 100%. Our bodies can achieve so much more, but for some reason we are programmed, because our brain is there to protect us. Our brain's there to protect us. Don't do this, don't do that, because this is scared. Don't challenge yourself. Why? Because there's no, and that goes for finance and building a business and everything else, because it's fearful. When you look at a kid and he runs out in front of the car, they don't have fear. But for some reason we fall on we're programmed in school. And you can't do this, or you can't do that, or you have to do this and you have to do that. And then COVID-19 has showed all this. we're just really in a program. We're told what to do, and then you're telling people then just to say like, oh, hold on a wee minute. No, if you lose your momentum, you end up losing your mental health or losing things. And a lot of this is where I feel sorry for a lot of businesses along the way, and a lot of people that have been very successful, and then it's just been taken away. Who could have predicted this? It's 2020. We'll be talking about for it's down in history books, like, you know.
4 months ago, this was going to happen. You'd be thinking, not a mission. The whole world on lockdown. Yeah, it's incredible. I'm afraid to ask you what your next challenge is going to be, Finny. Have you anything you've thought up yet?
I looked at the hardest challenge in the world. It's Bayswater. It's 135 miles over the Las Vegas desert. I probably will prepare for that one with the brother Tony, and maybe get more charities and more runners on board. And as the guys on Chobe, he done the under 2 hour marathon. I'm fascinated with people breaking records here. I'm fascinated with Conor McGregor, the guys that broke the rules and said, you know, I'm just a wee Irish kid and I'm coming to take over America. He's fought the best boxer in the world. When you look at his goals, let's use Conor for instance. He's went the UFC's won the 145 belt, which nobody fought, and everybody laughed at him. And he knocked a guy out. Psychology, he just destroyed Aldo. I was there that night. In 13 seconds, I was so disappointed. They say, oh my God, that was over that. But the Chad Mendes one, I was at that also, and that was amazing. And then I thought Conor really became a champion, even though he beat Chad Mendes for the belt and that, and he beat Aldo. I think he became a real champion when he was defeated by Nate Diaz. I was at that also, so I was a big fan of McGregor. So I just was fascinated with Conor, his mindset. He was following the same things I was doing, the law of attraction. If you speak it, it can come true, and it's laughable for a lot of people. But then you see guys that really doing it, and you're going, well, I can do this as well. And as Conor said, the people that complain and they'll stay where they are, but the people take inspiration from it will rise also one day. And this is why I do the 100-mile challenges or the 4-4s. You're lifting people up, and everybody's got something to offer. No doubt about it. Like, every human being on this planet has something good to offer, and you just have to find it. Where it's a passion about whatever you're good at, go and find it. Because when you find your passion, you'll no longer be working anymore. And I'm very lucky that I found a passion in fitness and different things, and it's led to so many things for me to rise up the ladder and help others along the way, you know, and that is the most important. And that's what I'm talking about the 100 miles. 100 miles was never, whereas I was playing football, look at me, I'm here for winning, it's all about me. When I'm going, no, I am lifting a girl out of their room who's in deep depression, have just lost their husband. I am lifting a fella from the sofa. I am on social media. I've got crazy messages that I haven't even answered yet, like how much inspiration. Now I feel like I have a platform here that this is serious. Like, you know, a lot of people's looking up to you here. So you just have to be careful what you say on social media as well. No, even though I like to have a wee bit of football banter where me and you would understand, not everybody else would understand that. So,
well, as I was saying to you off camera, like, I've started a wee challenge, 1,000 kilometers in the month of June, where I was maybe doing 60 walking, me and Debbie walk each morning, where now I'm cycling on average 30 kilometers every morning and going out on a paddleboard. I've got Colin on board as well. We put it out on Twitter, and we have about 8 or 9 people who are doing the same. And they've all just bought into this, and they're putting out their miles up on the wee app that we use, Strava. And, you know, speaking to you as well, if we can get, I think you had done a wee alphabet out. We're hopefully going to put that on the website. And it's about people doing exercises as well. So we're hoping to launch on the 1st of July. Again, speaking to yourself last week, you've inspired me. I'm buzzing at the minute. I've stopped the sugar, the biscuits, no chips, all stuff like that. All just the junk food that in COVID-19 you were sitting there and all of a sudden you were taking a big bag of crisps. Where now I'm thinking, no, do you know what? I'm swapping that for a piece of fruit, and I'm looking forward to getting up at 5 in the morning to go out training and stuff. And we're trying to inspire someone else, but I need to give you the credit, because from last Sunday onwards, me and Colin was just at it 100%.
I appreciate
But
that.
we've you to thank for me getting up at 7:30 every morning, get up at Cave Hill. Thanks for that now.
I 7:30. That the day's nearly over. We're up at half. I'm up
I
at
keep
half
telling
four.
him that. Yeah, I keep telling him that.
No, but there's for instance like we have to take into consideration how lucky we are. Is we can get up and do it and change that perspective. Where I have like, oh, I want to go and do it, or I can't do it, but you can do it. Well, there's nothing more important now in COVID-19, and it is real. What everybody else wants to say in their conspiracy theories, there's nothing more important than your mental health and physical health. So when you have it now, God forbid that you have it or somebody gets it, that you can fight it back. That gives you a chance that your body can fight these cells back or whatever it is, and just keeping yourself. And for me, there's something about like looking. I don't know. This might sound big-headed. When you walk into a supermarket, people look at you different because your physique's just there. They're going. They might envy you, or they might go. It demands respect. It's self-discipline every day, and there's something about self-discipline. And for me, like Gerry, this might sound like looking up to you and Packy and all. Like that's where I wanted to be, playing that league football. I wanted to play. I wanted to win the cups. I wanted to play with Linfield. I wanted to win all these. This is why you're probably going, oh, easy. I wanted to be on that changing room. I wanted the secret sauce. I go like, how did I become a winner? The Gusens, because that's what I looked up to. And with that was obviously you were self-disciplined. He's had the quality there as well, and I wanted a part of it. And everybody wants to be part of the success. You see, you're starting off on a Friday night or Saturday night in the run. There's not many people there, but when it comes to Sunday, it's like going to the final. I know, and I'm no different. I don't want to go to the first round of the cup, Jay. I want to go to the final, and have a good fun and stuff like that. And this is all part of being part of the progress of businesses, and if that leads on to everything in life. And when you're starting now, you're on your journey. If you're starting off, that excites me because I've now led somebody on to start their journey on fitness, where you could be turning around and telling me, well, I went and done an Ironman next year, and you're going like, where did it start? Where did it start? No, and that's just planting the seed. And I want to tell you a story here, and I really want for everybody to hear this. There is a tree in the Chinese bamboo tree. It takes 5 years to grow. And in the 5th year, in the 5th week, it grows to 90 foot. So this is the progress that people give up in between the 2nd year to 3rd year. And when there's nothing there, I'm not going anywhere. I don't really, if you're going on the gym, I don't really see my muscles. I'm not really losing weight. They're questioning. But without you nurturing your body, watering that plant, without doing the small things daily, and it doesn't have to be mad stuff. It doesn't have to be 100 miles. It doesn't have to be doing 5K, 2K a day. But at the end of the week, if you add that up the way I chipped down at that 100 miles, you have something at the end of 7 days. If you do something, these boys are torturing me here. Sorry. If you do something, you'll have something at the end of the week. I believe that every day that you get up, it's one is definitely a gift, without a doubt. But if you do something productive, that'll lead on 30 minutes workout every day. I'm not asking you to go and kill yourself 2 hours, because then if you can't train for the next 3 or 4 days, what good's that? Yeah. Always train about. This is where education comes in for me and teaching users. Always train about 70% of your max. Why? Because I'm good enough to go the next day and give 70. I'm good enough to go the next day. And by the end of the 5th day, you're going like, holy God, I've done 500 repetitions. Well, you're going on and doing 200 repetitions. You don't train for 4 days. That's no good to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This is momentum for people that
Can I actually
don't really get it.
Throw flowers at Gerry for a minute, because we played football together growing up and same teams and stuff, and I always wondered, he'd gone and played Irish League, had a great career. Why didn't it? And it's just what you're saying, consistency. He consistently, when he was out running, when we were maybe drinking tins of beer and doing things all the time, and that made a big difference. I mean, I played amateur league, and Gerry played Irish League, and growing up, there was virtually no difference between us, and Tim McCann as well, and it was about that. You just nailed it there, Vinny. Every single day doing the same things, where I would have been brilliant one day and then nothing for 3 weeks.
That's a self-discipline. That's a self-discipline. And belief. I think I've no players that've been, let's be honest, they're a lot better than me, but they couldn't get out of the circle of their friends. They wanted to go to the bar on a Friday and told how good they were. Where if you took a Jerry Flynn or a Packy McAllister, you could put them on any team in the whole Irish League and they could do a job for you. And then not only that, after 3 or 4 months, they become a leader. You throw them guys to the wolves, they become out leading the pack. This is the type of winners they are. This is why, no offense to yourself, let's be honest, don't tap pro in it. You're not going to get there because you don't have a mindset for it, because you don't want the rejection. Like I'm sure Gerry will tell you his stories, and there's a lot of failures there as well to get it, and then eventually you reach a good team and you start winning cups. You just don't go on, and this is the way I give away my medals. Or why did you? Because I only signed for Cliftonville in the January. I picked up a medal in the middle of February, and I'm going, I didn't earn that medal. I did not. I just didn't feel like I'm a winner. I didn't feel, even though I played the semi-final, the final, I give it away to a fan, and then also goes for Derry. I played 23 matches, and scoring 4 goals, whatever. That just wasn't enough for me, and I give it to a Derry fan. They're just past me, and this is about the world I like to live in too as well. And sometimes Gerry was shouting out about, "Oh, you were angry," It's sometimes nobody really knows how kind I am. Like I really want to give back deep underneath, because I know we came from nothing, like 12 year family, and now we have something to give back because all our hard work and dedication, that goes for business as well as in football. But football has planted the seed for me from self-discipline, meeting players like Gerry and meeting people that have learned me the whole way and going like, oh my God, this is how life is, and you have your battles, but realistically, everybody else has gone through their own ones as well. Like.
Vinny, I said to you before we come on camera, you're like an evangelist. Well, what actually brought you to this point? Because obviously, I don't know you've been growing up, but seemingly you weren't this person prior to that. What was that moment? Was it your mummy, Dan? What was it?
Aye, definitely. My mommy obviously there was a lot of anger when she was passing away, and the brothers, and there's a big family, there's 40 grandchildren there. She left a legacy, but I was very, very close there. So I cradled her for the last 6 weeks, and then it's hard, but it was like few people don't know that. Like I played a mask for about a year or two, put on the look at me, I'm tough, whatever, but underneath it was breaking inside. It just tore me to pieces. Like somebody brought you into the world, somebody you looked up to, somebody that's done so much for you, somebody believed in you so much. And then when she was just passing away, before she went under coma, she grabbed my hand and just said, "You're going to change something." And I was like, "What is this?" And I'm still trying to find the final sentence. And this is why I'm doing it. And now I'm starting to understand what the journey is about, inspiring other people to get up and value life. Life is never promised for the next day. And you watch Brona, and then I have a friend on Australia, which I was very lucky enough to go to for a year and a half when I finished my football career, who's just been diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. That was the 4448 was for him. Just to lift his spirit, and and things like that. Is about life's about trying to help others, and that gives you a purpose, and it feeds me. They say like, "No, I'm here in your corner." Like, and I look around and I see a Jerry Flynn in the corner, and I'm going, "Geez, I'm glad he's here today." Or if it's Brona or Gary getting up and going like, "Geez, this guy's thinking about me." And this is the world we should be doing. This world becomes so much easier if we look out for each other and we become kinder. And everybody's going through their own struggles. And God forbid, and you don't want to be going down and getting that news in the hospital, and if it's your parents, or it's your brother, or your friend, everybody's connected. Unfortunately, with suicide or even cancer and stuff like that, and a lot of things, and in this life, like you're not going to get out of it unscratched. Like in your 40 years of age now coming up, and everybody's your own story they tell, and never put down the pen. Everybody's writing it every day, and this is why every day is a gift. And the more you think, is why they call it the present, and the more you appreciate it, and that all comes down to gratitude. And this might sound too much for people, but this is what it is, guys. I'm telling you, when you have gratitude, everything else falls into place. Like if people give them your time, you've got to give them it back.
Well, we're both in the secret, so you're all right with us.
So I know. It can't be too much.
Yeah.
I know it can't be too much for people, and I understand that. Until you turn on the action, like, oh, you're going to do the 448 and all, that can't be done. Well, that's been done, and a lot of people have inspired and done it, young footballers, because they've been off. They weren't training. like Patrick McLean's, the Derry City players, you know, good boys takes them back and going, geez, funny, that was a brilliant challenge. And then now if you spanner in the works and go 100 miles in 24 hours, you're going, no, I don't think I don't want to do that one. We know you're crazy, Vinny. So for me, I was about picking souls. And Picking Souls is part of Goggins' book, which is one of my favourite books I've ever read. It changed my life as well, you know, after my mammy passing. He's on about picking souls. I was all like, well, my legs are fatigued and tired. I've a lot of people come out, they watch me, as you, Gerry, probably taking it serious and took your professional level serious, and you took, you know, when you want to go out and win a match, if you're playing a Korean, whatever it was. So I thought the people coming out and they took the time out of their Sunday, come out and watch me. I was about to put on my shoes and I didn't even bother. And I said, I think I can give this a go. And people were looking at me and going like, no way. You just can't do this. This is not normal. So I said, no, I'm not normal. But to be telling the truth, I said, I'll give it one lap and let's see. The first lap I went round and I went, I can't really put on my shoes now. I look like a real dickhead if I do that. So I just thought, oh, keep going. So I just kept going. And eventually the pain goes away. And the damage it done on the feet, it showed me the 40% rule that Goggins was on about on the book, that we're only limiting ourselves, and he's 100% right. He's 100% that if you push yourself to a level, you can achieve anything. This is achievable. We break down very quickly when our body feels pain. We're going like, if you took a deep breath and went again, how many times could you do it again? It's like, well, in Goggins' book, he was the guy that Goggins came to love with for a month. As a Joe Rogan podcast, it was one. He came in the first day and he put him on the pull-up bar and he done 4 pull-ups or 8 pull-ups, as they said. And he goes, right, what are we doing next? And he goes, so we're not leaving here until we do 100 pull-ups. And he goes, what? He goes, can I even do 4? He goes, I already know what your problem is. You limit yourself. And he said 2.5 hours later, he finished the 100 pull-ups. So, you know, these are the things we limit ourselves through it. We can achieve anything. Like Gerry's turned around saying he's done 26K a day, whatever. No, it's things that you've never done before, but you know you're capable of achieving these. But let's get out and do more. Well, we've done 26. Well, I want you to do 10% next week. I want you doing maybe 30. Right? I want you 10% the following week. Well, I want you doing 32. And each week you're building calluses in your brain, you're building repetitions, and you're going, oh my God, I'm more than capable than I thought I was. And that works for everybody.
I'm in for it now. He is going to torture me.
I'm going to try and do 100 on Saturday or Sunday. I've never even contemplated before, but that's my target. I'm going to do 100 kilometers on the bike on Saturday. And as I say, the highest I've done to date has been 42. And when I walked off it, I could hardly walk. My legs were
don't think that the target is, well, you've got to slow the pace down. You know, like the target for you is about maybe chipping away at 25. You'll feel comfortable, take your pace down, don't go on the red zone, maybe getting to 50. And you're going like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm sore, I'm tired, but you're brilliant. But let's go. We've got something there, a goal. Let's try and get to 70. And then you start seeing the 70, you start seeing the finish line. Yeah. And that momentum then takes you through, Gerry. And see the feeling of satisfaction of completing a challenge or completing this exercise. It's just unbelievable. Like, you know, like you're going like, this is what it's all about. And this is what I believe who we are as human nature. We're spiritual creatures that should be out in nature, climbing mountains, feeding fresh air. You can see the benefits of COVID-19. People's gardens are absolutely beautiful now. Everybody's been back home doing that. Let's be honest. People spend time with their families. You know, we've done things that, we've never no time, I'm too busy. You know, I've got a wee video just watched before even coming on. He was like, there was a kid that wanted to come spend time with his daddy, and he came on. They asked him one day, "Can I come out and play catch?" But his daddy said, "I'm too busy," and he kept knocking on the door. And the second time he came in, then he's asked him, "Daddy, how much are you on an hour?" And he's turned around and said, "Look, I'm on £50 an hour, whatever." He said, and he never came back for 3 or 4 weeks. But the wee guy went out and cut grass, went out and done all his services. And the last day, and 2 weeks later, he came in and he went to hand the father £25. And he said, "What's that for?" And he goes, "I just want half an hour of your time."
Brilliant.
No, like that hits home.
You'll make me cry.
No, but that's a reality where we live in, Colin. Yeah. Sometimes I am guilty of that as well. I'm far from perfect. You know, I have a daughter at 18. I won now on the way, which I'm on the top of my life. I'm going like, how can this happen? And that's what I'm saying. Never give up. 18 years, I'm still going there. I'm going, Lord.
Before I ask your next question, I have to take you to the task. You were talking about the Irish League and playing. I had to pay every week playing for Malacans, and on behalf of all the amateur league players, we did the same as you, 2 nights and you're training and doing jobs, and we never got a win for it.
Well, this is where we were on a wee bit more pressure on you, because we had obviously fans. We had critics there, like, you know, like Gerry, like obviously had players against me trying to give him grief every week, and then he obviously had fans both sides. Sometimes you weren't playing well. Some of your own home fans turned against you, and when you're playing a decent club, and that was psychology from that. You know, when I played in the final was at Ballymena against Linfield. We were winning 1-0, and you know, like the Linfield fans packed out the Seaview, and at the start, like, I was kind of feared. I was like, this is too much for me. I can't deal with this final. I'm not ready for this. It was really my first, and we went in. We were unbelievable. We're first half, Kevin Kelby 1-0. Probably, I don't even remember what year it was, but Ballymena were starved from success. But they started planting seeds. Oh, we'll give you this for a bonus. We'll give you that for a bonus. And as me, as Gerry probably know, I lost the head, and I said, shove your money up your wherever you can stick it. I want to win this medal. That's all I want. They won. So we went out there, and they scored very early, 1 each, and it's like the Alex Ferguson thing that David Jeffries thought I had, definitely in the Irish League, the Sona. We broke as a team, and they went on and won 2-1, and that sticks by me in finals and things like that as well. Like, you know, like they were, Linfield then were the benchmark, but I always believed in my head I could easily compete with these boys, like, but it was just, that was one at half time. I looked around and I thought some of the guys thought they really won the cup, or they just got comfortable. And I was like, what? No, because they thought, oh, I'm getting a bonus here if we won. And, you know, and it's half time, as everybody knows, and this is where we probably at, and we're still still young men. No, 40. We're only halfway through life, and that half time, it's changed my life as well, because I always look at that is that I'm now at 40. If I reach halfway through my life, if I'm blessed enough to have an hour 40, I'm only at half time. I have so much more to offer, and age is only a number. It doesn't matter. I'm going too old for it. I'm too bad. No, you're not, because you're busy. That you can be doing things. You can be going out on your bike rides. You be going out and spending time with friends. Like, there's something about that connecting. We all connect as human beings, and spending time that maybe you didn't get to the Irish League, but now you can still slag Gerry and be fatter than him when you take a hand at him. You're flying past him on the bike. You know, that's, you know, is that not a better?
I always flew past him.
You know what I mean? So things like that.
Look, Vinny,
my friends.
This is a regular sort of spot that we have, and you're talking about connecting with people. So who would you take on your 4-ball, dead or alive, into the pub? I know you're going to be drinking water, but into the pub anyway.
I would have to take Elvis, because Elvis would have been one of my mommy's like heroes, sort of, and she looked up to him a lot, so he would definitely won. I would take Conor McGregor, definitely. You know, he's been a big inspiration for me. Reading Goggins' book, David Goggins, definitely as well. And then probably, it'd be a hard one. Thierry Henry or Steven Gerrard. I don't know who will take. Maybe.
Brilliant.
It was Thierry Henry, and then the handball situation. No, he's went down to 50-50 between flip a coin with him and Steven. But the one that I'm looking at, Steven Gerrard, is because of the final, the FA Cup final straight away after it as well, the goal. And I know, and I look at Roy Keane, as tremendous leader, but Gerrard for me, like that Champions League final was special. You know, like the 3-0 down. Like, come on, 1-0, 2-0 down against an AC Milan team, but 3-0 down. It was something like it was. It still sticks in my mind, and as a football fan or anybody, even Man United fans, I'm sure Gerry's the same. It sticks out for people, and it really did stick out for me. And as an Arsenal fan, they're like, how how could that team come out of that mentally? Psychologists were looking at it and going like, oh my God, like this is phenomenal, you know.
I don't think
That's why I
Kennedy
like it.
is enthusiastic about that final, if I tell you the truth. Finny.
No, I didn't even watch it. I erased it from my memory. But as you say, they were 3-0 down. AC Milan, of all teams, you'd have thought never coming back. And no, he's some player. I still say Scholes is a better player, but no, Gerrard was.
No, well, you can only see where Scholes was after the Barcelona match, and Xavi and Iniesta were arguing for the jersey. But there's an RB story that I played with Johnny Steele at Ballymena, and I still taking connection. But Johnny was looking off there a few years back when I was going to one of the McGregor fights. I stopped off at Miami, and I went then. His manager was Nesta, so I spoke to Nesta. I was out there playing, and obviously, like I just treat people as the normal people. When people I go like, well, he's a footballer, and he showed me his crucial ligament, a big scar up there, Miami's keyhole, and I go, gee, and he was still pinging the ball, and I just said to him, geez, he could still play. And it was just short chat, and the guys were training, and I turned around and I said to him, well, what was the football moment? What were your memories like? And he goes, I go, what about the night in Istanbul? And he goes, I'd never want to talk about it. I never want to talk, even though they beat them. He goes, that was the worst moment in football in his football career. He said, and I was saying, look, to be honest with you, it was one of the best I've ever watched. You know, they say, like, so you never know along your journey of life where you can meet different people.
It was one of my worst nights, and it was one of my worst nights in football as well.
You know, I understand, Gerry. You know, it's probably all them Liverpool fans are like a young Vinny Sweeney, be on the football pitch going, they're just narcs, they're just trying to bring out the worst in you, you know. And there's nothing worse than that. Trying to get under your skin, you know, getting under your skin, and that is at the end of the day, it's like the Ferguson tactic. It's all psychology. They're just looking for a bite off you, and you're going, and then you're just, people. This is football, and this is enjoyment of football that it brings together. If it's in the change room, or you know, we've all different opinions of other things, and you know, you support Man United, or you might support Liverpool, you support Arsenal, but at the end of the day, we're all football fans. No, and that's the most important. When you watch the beauty of Barcelona or the Dutch teams, and you're going like, or even you're all with them, and then you watch like Messi or Ronaldo and the guys. I study these boys. I'm like, what is going on? They be so driven. They get up, and like Ronaldo's not. You can't turn around and say Ronaldo's fake because he's record. I've won hat-trick, which I scored against Korean, and I saved the ball there. He's got 55 or more for Real Madrid. Do you know the stats? The stats are unreal, and not just going down like for what he's achieved. He's now at 35 years of age, going on to 36, and he still could play Champions League, World Cups. Where I looked at Wayne Rooney, who's 3 or 4 years younger, who was at the same stage, but for some reason, our Western world is that we should be eating fries, alcohol, and getting away with it, and you have a short career. Guys like Ronaldo knew that they were going to be something else. He's breaking barriers. He wants to leave a legacy. But you have to also go with the financial success with what Ronaldo brings, because Ronaldo's making so much finance today, where Rooney should be doing the same if he had managed his mental health, his fitness, his management. He could easily be on that same level because he was learning that guy. He was in that same change room. But unfortunately, for some reason, and I hope it doesn't come across wrong, but some of them wrong. You look at the foreign managers; they keep themselves in better shape. Mourinho, Guardiola, and then you look at some of the English managers, and that all goes down to just going, this is our society. We just think, oh, no, we'll just go out the bar, drink, you know, and that all falls under being disciplined. And it's a big thing. Lifestyle, it's new, and we fought like, and this is where depression comes in, Gerry. And I've watched the Harry's Boys here a couple of times, and it's very sad to watch. You know, the Paul Mersons, Neil Ruddicks, and you know, he's 56, and these guys might have. They have everybody, and I'm watching that, and they were heroes of mine. You're watching up, they were obviously football fans, you know, and it was a young age, and you're looking at the FA Cup and things, yeah. And they see him in that position now, where they're back in the reality of life. They're not making that finance. They're no longer the heroes they thought they were, and that persona they were put up on that platform, and the come down must be horrible for them, like, you know. And to me, everybody's human, but in the same stress, it's their families picking up the pieces of the gambling or the alcohol, and it's very hard to watch, and it's very sad, where I would love to grab them and say, can I help you even get you a wee bit fitter, or just even change your mindset? They say that, you know, if you actually put yourself a wee bit of struggle every day for 10, 15 minutes, done a few push-ups, done a wee bit benefit you, well, at the end of the week, you could have something there. And if you see something at the end of the week, maybe the second week, third week, and that's like building momentum, as I'm saying, and that could change your life, and that could prolong your life for another 10, 15 years. But the way some of the people are going, this was frustrating for me. I'm like if you look after yourself, and nobody knows what's going to happen the day or tomorrow, but your health and fitness is the most important for me, like, and that is a gift, you know, like, and we have one body, one life, and we can all look after it. And the way you look after it, and that comes down to self-discipline. And for me, self-discipline is a massive, you know, you find yourself in getting up. Find yourself in the struggle. As I don't know what, if you're on the gym, repetitions. If you're on the running, you find it in running. If you're on the triathlon, you're on the swimming, you find it in swimming. If you're on the anything, if you're exercise and moving, there's something in there. There's a reward there somewhere. There's a reward at the end of it. Effort equals reward every day. And this is where I want to change usings as well. Like.
Vinny, as Jared alluded to earlier there, we'd love to have you on our site and inspiring. And I've never met you before this conversation, but Gerry was right. You truly are inspirational, and we'd love to have you on board and helping our listeners, including ourselves, of course, if you're up for it.
No, 100%. And this is the job I want to do, and Gerry reached out. And I love Gerry putting back and going, like, you're in a different mind space. But Gerry didn't understand me when I was that young as well. So everybody's got their own story to tell. And for me to get it out now as an adult and as a father and different things, like, I'm very lucky to have my own gym, that people want to come and see me, and people want to pay me. Sometimes I pinch myself, and this might people want to pay me to come trim with me, you know, but all the hard work to get there, obviously, even building the gym and all the hours and time and doing all the courses or going to learn it all 10, 15 years. Nobody sees that, the early mornings at 5 o'clock, but I've been doing this for years and years and years. And just COVID-19 has really lit it up for me, to be honest, and showing who I am. And the momentum of the cold showers, the glass of waters, and doing the simple things right, that this is how our bodies and minds work. And fitness and health is a massive part of it. You know, when you look at the very successful people, they're all on the fitness. They're all on the some type of fitness, because when you have your fitness and you're mentally strong, you're ready for to attack anything. And you just never know what life can throw at you sometimes. And the one thing that you don't want, how's your mental strength or whatever? No, like, all right, I'm not asking people to go out and do 100 miles or run 4 hours or 48 hours, things like that. But you don't want that phone call, turn around and say, you know what, there's only 5 minutes here, you need to come to the hospital. Because I got that phone call and I wasn't ready for that. But that's when I changed my life. And everybody has their own mothers, whatever, and you're very lucky that people have them and they've done so much. And that phone call was hard for me, and it still is, looking back. But for me to turn around and they help people now that is looking out for all our people that might go through that same situation, going, you'll get through this, you will get through this, no doubt about it. Like, and that's my goal, you know, that's my goal.
I'm glad you shared your story with us today. I'm delighted, and you come aboard and give some of the exercise and stuff. We'll be delighted, and a lot of people will benefit from it.
No, I appreciate that. I'm glad to help out as well, especially from the connections trying to sign me or playing against me, and the apologies on the card park for being hot-headed, you know, through. But I actually enjoy that, because that shows me what a real person's about. You know, when you're showing you what they're. And we live in a very fake world now. You know, it's all social media, and you know, it's all like, look at me, and you know, and people get caught up in it a lot. You know, it's all filtered and stuff like that. And for me, I would rather go out and give Gerry Flynn a kick and then share a laugh after, and then maybe 5 or 10 years down the line saying, how you doing? And that's class for me. Like, the friends I have in football that understood the wonders. I see a lot of Linfield players now getting together and climbing mountains there on Facebook and things. And I like that team is amazing. They've won so many, and they've all, like, became fathers and became family men. You know, it's not just becoming a good footballer; it's becoming a decent human being. And for me, that's what it's all about. Doesn't matter what your journey is, and opening up a wee bit more, because I was very closed in when I was playing football, and I didn't let many people, and I was very angry for certain reasons. But and now I can open up, and social media is a platform for me to say, this is my story, this is why my actions, and I want to help people that you can also change as well for the better, and help also on your journey. You know, if I'm helping, you're saying I'm inspiring you to get up and do something, but you're also inspiring another group, and this is how it leads on. It's people feed off people. You have to understand that when you're giving out, like, if it's somebody wants to do this thing, they're not just, you're feeding off, they're feeding off you, and then it's up to you, them people, then your crowd, they feed off, and then that crowd can feed off somebody else, and before you know it, everybody's doing something that's doing good. And that's the goal. The goal is to get people up and move, and there's nothing like that, you know. That's the success of it.
Vinny, that was absolutely powerful. Really, really enjoyed that, and thanks very much indeed for coming on.
No bother, Colin. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Vinny.
Brilliant, lads.
And we'll chat to you shortly. Good man yourself, Vinny. All the best.